Due to the adult subject matter of the following program, some listeners may find the content offensive, outrageous, or unsuitable. You know, like religious freaks, uptight losers, or little wussy mama's boys. Please listen responsibly.
You're listening to The Vocal Minority with Nick Reynolds and Steve Harness.
Hot. How much time?
You're on.
I love scotch. I love scotch. Scotchy, scotch, scotch. Here it goes down into my belly. That is good.
You're on the air.
How are you? You look awfully nice tonight. Maybe don't wear a bra next time. How much time till we're on? What?
We're on the air right now.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
By the way, dude, are we all loving this new look of the modern woman not wearing a bra?
What? Music was drowning out a little there.
Is it still too loud or what?
No, you're fine, I guess.
Are we all loving this new modern look of women not wearing bras?
I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this anymore, so I don't know how to answer that question right off the top of the show here.
I'll
I'm allowed
answer
to
that.
talk about it.
I'm a single guy. I can, but I'll tell you what.
I don't even know what you're referring to. This is an epidemic going on?
Are you kidding me?
It's
Yes.
everywhere.
Oh, it's because of the pandemic. No one wants to go back to wearing a bra.
Nope, that's not why at all, dude.
Oh, that's what
And
I've
you should
heard.
know this because you've got a younger person in your family that could start this new trend. I mean, younger women are not wearing bras. They're just not wearing them. They think that, well, they're women, dude. They don't have to wear a bra if they don't want to. Stop
Bruce,
putting
how
the
are you aware of this
restraints on
trend
me.
if it's affecting younger women only?
Because I live in Boston, where we have an amazing amount of colleges and universities. You drive around this city, and there are college girls everywhere. And also, I get them in my Uber too, every
Okay.
single night.
That's fair. Listen, I can tell you that Hillary, my adult companion, stopped wearing a bra during COVID and has now essentially refused to put one back on. If it's a very
Just at
special,
home.
No, I'm talking in general. If she's got like a big meeting to go to or something, she'll, pony up and put it on. Otherwise, no, she's like boycotted those things. She's
If
in a
you guys
place,
go
like,
out
why did I
to-
ever wear one?
If you go out to get drinks at a restaurant or something, she doesn't put a bra on?
No.
Wow.
Nope.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, all right.
How do you
Anyway,
feel about it?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I never totally understood the point of a bra in the first place. I mean, it's certainly an obstruction for anything I'm trying to do. Beyond that, unless they're bouncing off your kneecaps, I don't know. Let them be. It's always I always thought it was for their support and comfort, and now I'm here to support and comfort. So
All right. Well, I got off on a tangent. Why don't we explain who we are and why we're here?
yeah, those are all valid questions. We're back. Can I just say how good it feels to hear that show open?
What, did it make you
Yeah.
feel excited inside?
I can't even tell you. I mean, hearing Anchorman there and Into the Corn song, that was our show open for years, and it always, it's game time when I hear that thing going on, and to hear it again after all these years is it's motivational, Nick. It's motivational.
Brewski, what's the date of our last show on the air? I figure you'll know.
Wow, that's a really good question.
Do you know the year?
2004.
Fact
Wrong.
or bullcrap, Harness?
No,
No,
it was
wrong.
Are you
I don't know the
sure?
date. It was the last.
Oh, no.
It was the
It
last
was-
weekend of November 2005.
2005. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes. Yeah, so here's the deal, everybody. We are, it may be hard to understand at this moment, but we're radio professionals that used to do a talk show that was the greatest talk show that never was. And I can explain that whole story momentarily. But these three idiots you see on the screen here, we did a syndicated radio talk show, and it went away, and now we've decided to bring it back. Is that the
Yeah,
correct-
I think we decided to bring it back. Well, we were trying. I never wanted this show to be over, but let's address that right away, Harness.
Well, that's part of the story here.
All right, you moved away. We all lived in Seattle, Washington, where we
Yes.
did the show from,
Yes.
and you had a lot of responsibility and you had to move away.
Yeah.
The show ended, and I wondered for a long time, will the show ever come back? Will the show ever be back on the air? We put so much blood, sweat, and tears to getting the show on the air originally.
Yes.
From, making our own studio, which was a lot damn harder back in the time that we did it.
Yeah. Let's explain all this, because the answer to your question is something that has haunted me for years. And that phone call I made to you to tell you that I was having to leave was, it was painful. It still is. I still feel guilty about it. I hate that it came to that, but here's the setup. So we're all radio people, and we all met in Seattle working for a company up there. And Nick and I, when we first met, we were at an oldies, classic rock kind of radio station. And I got hired as like some overnight DJ. And they told me to show up, and there'd be some guy there waiting for me to train me. And that person was, of course, the man, the myth, the legend. Not Danny Holiday.
It wasn't Danny Holiday.
It was the legend Nick Reynolds himself. And Nick, I know I've told you this before, but when you and I first met, I immediately knew how extremely similar we were, and that we would either have to become the best of friends or the worst of enemies.
Thought the exact same thing.
Yes. And as it turns out, obviously, we're still hanging out 20-something years later. So yeah, we started doing radio in Seattle. We were working at this station, but then Nick and I would hang out on the overnights when I was doing my stuff, and we'd do, off air all of these phone calls. People calling in the radio station, and we would goof around with people. We'd interview people. We did all this stuff. We made these tapes, started circulating around the radio station, and people were saying like, "Hey, you guys are actually pretty funny. You should maybe do like a morning show or a talk show or something," right?
Correct. And there were a lot of drugs involved, and so
some
we
of which
know.
are legal now, I'll point out. But
yes, most of which are legal now. Did we do any harder drugs?
No, of course not.
Stop it. So yeah, there were a lot of people who said
no, we really
guys
didn't.
should bring the show to the air. No, we did not. I mean, so we finally did it, and we started back on a radio station that was 100.7 The Buzz.
Yes, in
and
Seattle.
did our first show. We only did one show before we got kicked off the first time, right?
Well, here's the deal. So Nick and I were constantly harassing the program director there to give us a shot. And we were sending this woman all the demo tapes. And so she put us on a Friday night after Tom Likas, and we got to do like a 3-hour show. And might I say, for rookies that had never done it before, we killed it. We did very well. And then
We did.
Nothing much came of it at that point, right? I think maybe we got one other shot, another time to fill in on something, but now we had the real tapes from a real radio station doing the real talk show. So we then, within the company, found a talk station in a different market, Wichita, Kansas. Still love you. And we approached that station and told them we were in Seattle doing the show. They agreed to pick up the show. So Nick and I, in the year 2003, give or take, built a studio inside my house, which obviously nowadays home studios are commonplace, but back then that was not at all. And the equipment needed was massive. We built a radio station in my frickin' master bedroom, right?
Yes, I mean, it was expensive. None of it was done over the internet.
No.
The internet was still new enough that we didn't have the technology. So everything was done over land lines. And,
we had ISDN lines. We had our own toll-free number. We had our own phone system, multiple microphones, and so we started broadcasting live Saturday and Sundays for this talk station in Wichita, Kansas.
KFH.
And at that point, yes, KFH, Tony Dusing, love you still. He gave us our real first chance. At that point, Brewski, who, by the way, is our producer, sidekick, color commentator extraordinaire, you were not with us at that point. But Nick and I started it going, and then, I don't know, a few months into it, we were sending out demo tapes, and a station in Baltimore, Maryland, / Washington, D.C. area there, they picked us up.
Hot Talk.
Yeah, we were that was one of the CBS stations, the Hot Talk stations they had back then, of which Howard Stern was on most of them, but not all of them. And back then, this was its own little format of radio. The Hot Talk, as they called it, or Shock Jocks or whatever. And there were stations all over the country.
Especially on FM.
Yeah, it was an FM radio thing for the most part. So now we're doing our talk show Saturday and Sundays from the home studio. We're on in Wichita, Kansas. We're on in Baltimore, Maryland, which I didn't even realize at the time was basically Washington, D.C. It's the same market. It's like
Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. So we were on in Washington, D.C., which was a top 10 market. And then the guy that was running that station ended up getting hired by Intercom and coming to work for our company that we were still working with in Seattle. He called the program director there and said, hey, you've got this great up-and-coming talk show in your backyard. Like, why don't you get them on the Buzz in Seattle, which is where we started at.
That's
Full
correct.
circle.
Full
So
circle.
then, now we're on 3 stations. So we're on in Seattle, Washington, Wichita, Kansas, Baltimore, Maryland. So we're perfectly hopscotching the country. And we were syndicated at this point, which is usually the ultimate goal of a talk show, but we started off that way somehow. Just because it's, I don't even know. I don't even understand how we did that, but that is how we started.
Grassroots, dude. Hard work, blood, sweat, and tears.
Damn straight. And quite frankly, we were good. You know, I mean, back then we were in our early to mid 20s, and we were just going on, you know, piss and vinegar and Mountain Dew, and just, you know, we were funny young guys and talented broadcasters, but didn't have a lot of life experience, but we were really good at the show. And then ultimately what happened was Intercom in Seattle came to us and said, hey, why don't you drop all the other stuff and just come work for us full time? We're going to be redoing the Buzz, you know, into the next year. And, you know, you guys will be on Monday through Friday. You can be here in your hometown. And we thought that was the dream, right? I mean, that was the ultimate goal.
That was the dream. Well, we were, you know what, here's the truth of the matter is that you would think if we were syndicated in 3 markets like that, 2 of which were huge markets,
Yeah.
that we would be making enough money to live off of.
Yeah.
But that was not the case. So
No.
with that opportunity to go to the Buzz, I mean, it was our hometown. We loved the radio station. We didn't have to move all that stuff, but we were also going to start putting money in everyone's pockets because for the most part, everyone had been working for free or losing money on this deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, we were burning hours trying to build it into a real show that would be sustainable Monday through Friday, and that was our dream. You know, Nick and I really wanted to do good talk radio. Both huge Howard Stern fans, both fans of the format in general. And the Buzz in Seattle was doing some really cool stuff. There were other local talk shows there, and it was a really hip station in Seattle. And then time went forward. We had a really good 2005, I guess. That was the year we were doing the competitions with the other shows,
Yep.
and we broadcast from the Seahawks Stadium. Brewski, at some point in that window, we had lost, I think, 2 producers. 1 because I embarrassed heavily. 2 because he became, I think, morally outraged by what Nick and I were doing at the time. And then
More
Brewski
so you.
was probably more so me, yes. And then Brewski. I mean, you were kind of hanging around, and we started bringing you a little bit, but then we made you the full-time quote unquote producer. Is that
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, exactly. So I was actually board hopping the time slot just before you guys. It was all pre-recorded programming,
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
you guys would come in to do the show, and then I would go off and leave and all that. But Nick would have me record little bits here and there
Yep.
every so often.
That's right.
And-
Because you were the
and we-
fiery Bostonian, and that, you know, we didn't have anything like that. And obviously, we all got along off air, so you seemed like the perfect fit to slide in.
Yeah, and I did that bit where I was selling concessions between the 2 studios, and that's where I was doing the cousin
Yes.
Brewski thing.
Yes.
That's
And
right.
that's
It was like a
what-
vendor at the ball games, right?
Hot dogs! Get your hot dog
and-
too!
Peanuts! Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we had this amazing show going, right? And we actually had like rating success, which was part of the thing that caught the Buzz off guard, because like they put us on a Saturday, and there was no ratings on that station at all on Saturday, except all of a sudden when we came on, we went to number 1 in the entire market of Seattle. So the audience found us and tuned in for us. And they did some focus groups and whatnot, and we kept coming up right there with the big Monday through Friday shows. So, yeah, everything seemed on track for us to go full time, to do this, to build the show, to spend our careers and our lives being talk radio show hosts.
We're breathing easy. For the first time in years, we're
Yes.
breathing easy, saying, oh, it's all starting to pay off. Here it comes.
Exactly. And then on December 1st, 2005, my alarm clock was always set to the Buzz. And my alarm clock went off, and frickin' Garth Brooks or something was playing on there.
Yes, it was. And I was actually there. I was actually working for one of the other morning shows when the whole thing went down.
Yes. My point is, if you're not following the audience, our station flip formats, which happens in the world of radio all too often, and it's a freaking cliche to say that it flipped to country music, but it did. Our talk station just went away. It became a country music station. And some of the shows ended up going over to a rock station and doing sort of a music talk thing and lived on. But we just all of a sudden, just one day, it was just all gone.
Yeah. The Wolf came on the radio and I mean, we were done. They literally, I was at the station, like I said, when it happened, and I walked in. I was working as a producer for the morning show at this station at that time, trying to make ends meet. They pull us off the air in the middle of the show and fired everybody. And I was included in that. And I remember looking at the program director. Can I say it? Well, the program director was Dave Richards. His name was Dave Richards. His address is 758. I looked at him after he fired the whole morning show, and he was like, "Go ahead, get out." And I was like, "Oh, for the vocal minority too? Like I'm fired for the vocal minority?"
Right.
Because at that time they took people from the Buzz, the talk station, and started putting them on KISW, which was the rock station in town. And I thought, oh, well, we may still have a chance here.
Right.
No, we did not.
He
was like, no, you're done. Get out, get out. And I said, oh, we got to talk about this. And he said, if you have any questions, you can talk to HR.
Right.
I said, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
This is a radio cliche that you show up for your air shift and somebody's already on air, or they pull you off while you're doing a broadcast and just fire you. And that's exactly what happened. I was not at the station, and so I started calling, like, hello, like, what's going on? Do I still have a job? And when Human Resources finally called me back, you got to remember, I was doing the talk show stuff with all of us, but I was also doing, like, random board hopping work, street team stuff, like just random
We were on the street team together, you and I.
Exactly. Random crap I was doing there at the station to get stuff done. And so I said to Human Resources, I'm like, okay, so I just lost my talk show. They're like, yep, sorry, those are the breaks. I'm like, well, what about my other job there? And it got silent and awkward. And then the woman was like, can I call you right back? And it took like an hour, and she calls me back. She's like, so apparently we're not allowed to, we're not going to terminate you from those other positions because they're not tied to that station. So I guess you still have a job here. But, they stopped scheduling me hours, and they just kind of ushered me out the door.
Everything dwindled away. Brewski was the only one who stuck around for a while anyway.
Well, so here's the thing. I was the one, actually, who had to push the button to kill the buzz and usher in the country music. Wow. I was scheduled to be on the board that day because they were going to do a best of for BJ's show because they were going to be doing the big press conference about him taking over for Howard. Yes. And so we were playing a best of for BJ. And but they had that stupid countdown on that they put on when they knocked the other morning show off the air.
Yeah.
And I was scheduled to be on the board. So then they were like, okay, well, here's the launch CD for the station.
How insulting.
I almost feel like they did it on purpose, dude. They were like, you know what? We're going to stick a needle in all these guys, and we're going to make one of their best friends do it.
Well, wait to hear this part. They actually told us that we would have the opportunity, and I said it with air quotes, to interview for our jobs.
Wow.
This is the world of radio.
I was just going to say, this is corporate radio right here. And, I guess we're trying to get away from all that nowadays. So, here's the thing. Did we even say the name of this talk show yet? I guess our show open did. But this is The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve. And the idea of the vocal minority, it's not an ethnicity thing. It's, the opposite of the silent majority. People that call radio stations and get involved, they are the minority, but they're very vocal and they want to get involved. And that was the whole
vocal
concept.
Minority, big baller.
Exactly. That was the whole concept for our show. That we went through the pain in the ass to get a talk show, and now we're going to loan it out to you, meaning you can call in, you can email us, get vocal, give us your opinion on topics. We discuss news, we discuss current events, pop culture, we discuss crazy things that happened to us on the way to work that day.
Just life in general, right?
Exactly.
The whole concept of the original show is is that we wanted to feel like a drop-in where some buddies are hanging out, spending a Friday night drinking or whatever, and you pop in the bar and we're just having a conversation. And that's how the show is going. That's how we will pick the show back up and carry it forward.
Exactly. And sometimes we discuss serious topics, news-oriented things. Other times it was like, hey, where's the craziest place you ever threw up at? And we'd take calls and emails, and people would share stories. Like Nick said, it's like guys sitting around a bar, because sometimes you discuss Roe v. Wade, and sometimes you discuss where I, crap my pants at when I was, 15 or last week or whatever. So we cover a variety of topics, and the whole idea is that the audience has a chance to get involved, and we're going to be doing that again with this as well. But today you're kind of listening to our practice show, our dust off the cobwebs. We're testing out our new studio setups. We have not done this show in 16 years. So there's a little bit of dusting that's going to be required. And there's a lot of life that has happened in the last 16 years, which I feel the audience needs to know. This will be a good show for you guys to get to know us. Everything about us.
That was kind of Steve's idea, is like, hey, for the first show, we just kind of pick up where we left off, which was so many years ago that there has been a lot of life changes that we'll go over. And, we'll kind of reveal ourselves. That's the other thing on this program. And that's one thing, like Steve and I knew this all along, but bringing Brewski in on the whole program and the idea of the program, it's why you were embraced, Brewski, is because it's all honesty on this show. Yes. And we touch deep topics, and they're not always comfortable for all of us on the program. But the authenticity of the program is, I think, what makes it very listenable and engaging. So we're still
we will
in
be
that
real
spot.
with you. We will keep it real. We will keep it honest. Embarrassing or not. I have this theory that most conservative talk show hosts, for example, are not really that conservative. They're playing a character. That audience is a little bit gullible. And so they ham it up. They put on a front. And that is not what we are doing.
No, you're 100% right, dude. And especially with how polarized the world is right now, you see a lot of videos that we didn't see when we did this show originally. Like, social media is obviously taken way off, which makes us sound like antiques on one level. But Tucker Carlson,
we had a MySpace page.
We did have a MySpace page, dude. Tucker Carlson is one of those guys that it just boggles my mind that guy is ultra conservative and everything. Have you seen him in public with people going up to him and recording him?
No.
He's different, but he'll pop into character right away.
Yes.
I mean, he's an asshole all the time, but he's not as I don't think he subscribes to all the topics that he covers on his program.
And you can even see it, like with someone like Sean Hannity and this whole Trump insurrection thing, which we'll get to that near the end of our updated timeline. Like, he was texting him off air saying, this does not look good. We got to stop this stuff. This is going to... That's not what he was saying on air. And by the way, nobody's ever 100% on one thing. And conservatives always pretend to be 100% on the same, page. And that right there shows that they're insincere. So... my point is, we will keep it real and honest. There is a bit of a reality radio aspect to this whole thing because we documented our lives back then. The same thing is going to pick up now, but
for better or for worse.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a 16-year gap in our last update. So yeah, I thought this would be a good chance for everyone to get to know us. And
well, where do we want to start off? We've covered where we left off. Where do we want to start?
Well, so, we ended at the end of 2005. So, first of all, George W. Bush was the president at that time. Just put yourself back in that mindset,
dude.
Right?
Yes.
And back then, I remember thinking that W was just the worst possible president that we could ever have. No way could we do worse than this guy.
We hated him, dude.
Oh, we railed on him all the time. I had a book going of reasons I hated George W. Bush so that when I was on air, if someone called me, I could just be like, here's number one, here's number two, here's number three. And of course, in modern era, I now think back on W fondly as, boy, I would take him any day.
Those were the good old days.
But yeah.
After Trump, he was seen running down the street screaming, I'm free, I'm no longer the worst president ever.
Right. Yeah, I guess Trump did do him that favor. He's not the biggest moron anymore to have sat in the White House. So yeah, that's how far things have come. Obama? Who even knew who that was then? He was some young senator from Illinois at that point.
Yeah, who knew, in my personal opinion, that he would be one of the greatest presidents the world had ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Repeat offender. So here's the deal. So we ended at the end of November 2005. I think my most personal update happened just right after that. So
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
January 2006, we had been off the air at that point for maybe 6 weeks, right? And Nick and I we weren't giving up on this. You know, we had all this history and demo. So we were actively, and we had an agent at the time, which was, mind blowing for us, a well connected guy. So he was
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson. We might be calling you again one day. So, Mr. Anderson was out there trying to find us gigs, and we were sending out demos. But the reality was that format of radio was imploding because Howard Stern left and went to satellite radio. And the whole Janet Jackson nip slip at the Super Bowl got the FCC all in a tizzy, advertisers in a tizzy. So over the course of that year, the stations that did our sort of talk radio started imploding. And we spent a year trying to find a job, but it didn't pan out. But before that, so back in January, I was working some crap part-time job. I came home from work, and my fiance at the time, Jamie, sitting on the couch, and she's like, "Hey, Harness," because she called me Harness. We need to talk. She went to the doctor, and turns out she was pregnant. So, first mind-blowing thing, right?
Yeah,
holy
I
crap,
know, yeah.
I'm going to be a dad. And I
Hey, dude, what did you think? Slow down for a minute. What did you think when you first heard that news? Because you were not ready by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, first of all, I had been envisioning that sort of conversation since I was like 18, of somebody telling me like, "Hey, by the way,"
Yeah.
guess what? And so my first thought was, "Wow, it's finally happened." We had this brief moment of, do we keep it or not? But we were already engaged, and we knew we were getting married. We knew we wanted to have kids. So that whole notion went away very quickly, because how could you get married and then know that you had given up your first kid, So we just immediately were like, we're keeping the kid. Like, we got to do the right thing here. We should probably get married before, we actually have the kid. But we got to go to Babies R Us, and we got to paint a nursery. We got to blah, 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 blah. I start thinking of all these 5,000 things that have to get done and that I
And
only
we're like,
have.
slow down, Harness. You got time.
I know.
You
I was
got
thinking I
time.
only have like 7 or 8 months to get this done. Like, that's nothing. Oh my gosh. So Jamie tells me like, the doctor did sort of just a basic exterior exam, and he thinks I might actually be a few months along. I'm thinking like, oh my God, like 3 or 4 months pregnant. Like, that means we only have like 5 or 6 months. Like, that's insanity.
Yeah.
So she's like, we got an ultrasound scheduled for tomorrow. So we're going to go and we'll get the whole story. So our heads are just spinning, there's a bit of excitement, a bit of nausea, like, holy crap, are we ready to be parents? Which nobody is, by the way. But, so we go to this ultrasound the next day, and the tech gets, the paddle up there and gets the image on the screen, and the tech looks at us and is like, how far along did your doctor say you are? And we were like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months maybe. The tech's like, you look like you're about 8 months pregnant.
Whoa.
Which, dude, let me just, I'm sure most people had this as a first thought. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. First of all, Jamie didn't look like she was pregnant. Even, obviously I was seeing her with clothes on, but to me, she didn't look pregnant at all.
No.
And we'd been smoking crack for the last 8 months.
Right. Mainly
So I was
freebasing. I hear that's organic and healthy.
Yeah.
Well,
Obviously,
I
Nick's
remember
joking. Yes.
we were there for Thanksgiving. My
Yeah.
girlfriend at the time, Jen, and I were at your house
Yep.
for Thanksgiving. We all got together, and Jamie seemed kind of tired, but around the holidays, everybody gets that.
In
way,
hindsight, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In hindsight.
Well, and here's the thing. She had actually gone to the doctor a couple of times over that 8-month window. And I could just go back and punch that guy in the nuts, because she would come in and say, well, I'm feeling run down and nauseous. And he's like, are you on birth control? And she said, yes, I am. He said, okay, well, can't be pregnancy then. Let's move on to the next thing. Never tested. Never took it in. As if birth control can never fail. That's never happened in the history of birth control. So it wasn't until she came back for the second or third time where he's like, maybe we should do a pregnancy test. And sure enough. And Jamie was always, a curvy blonde. She, full-figured, not overweight by any means, but she, her weight fluctuated. And she had lost a bunch of weight. And then over those 8 months, she was gaining a little back, but not noticeable. And, her belly wasn't sticking out. I mean, everyone's asked this question, like, how does a woman not know? And she honestly started crying when she heard it was 8 months because she felt terrible. How could I have not known? And the doctor said, listen, little girl, like, you've never been pregnant before. Like, that's how you don't know. And birth control messes with your period, and she wasn't getting that. And, it must be the birth control. Like, just all of this, must be something else, must be something
You
else.
write it off, right?
Yes.
I mean, since this has come out, or since it happened, I had never heard of it at the time. Now there's TV shows about it.
Yes.
I mean, so it happens a lot more
does.
than we think that it does.
Our
but I
doctor
had
back
never
then
heard of
said
it.
at least once a year this happens. He says normally it's 6 or 7 months along. 8 months is pretty far, but it does happen. So
Yeah.
now here we are. I'm freshly unemployed, lost the talk show. I just found out not only are we pregnant, but the baby's going to be due in about 4 weeks. So instead of the 4 or 5 months or 7 or 8 months I thought I had, now we're down to a couple of weeks. So, I mean,
I remember the phone call I got, dude.
yeah.
When
I
I
don't
got
know
the
if I
phone
do.
call, you probably don't, but I remember like where I was in my house. I remember the time of day it was. I remember it all because I could just hear the fear in your voice. I mean, your voice was
Yes.
shaky, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like you were calling to tell me because you wanted me to know, but I mean, I don't think it had completely even sunk in with you yet.
No, nor I don't even know how it could have. So yeah. So we wanted to get married. So we slapped together like a sitcom, a backyard wedding, and some of our family couldn't be there. So our thought was none of our family should be there then, if some of them can't be. So we only invited our closest friends in Seattle, which happens to include the both of you, were in my wedding, in my backyard. And
Who,
Nick,
I mean, Brewski wore a tuxedo T-shirt to your wedding, dude, which I'll never forgive.
who would do that? That would be kind of
yeah.
in poor taste, right?
Well, it might be. It might be. Listen, I was the one who had the tuxedo T-shirt on, but I'm going to be honest with you. It was tucked in,
apologized.
dude.
It was tucked in. Yeah,
That's
Nick wore a tuxedo T-shirt to my wedding, and you did later apologize. It took you some time, but you realized in hindsight, like maybe that wasn't the classiest move. But I don't know. I thought it was funny. So
Yeah, I did. That's why it took me some time, is because I didn't think Harness really minded. I thought more he was catching grief from his now wife.
Right.
For
Yeah.
So yeah.
well, and so to make things even just crazier, so we got married on February 10th or 11th, and my daughter was born February 20th. Now, we did the usual thing on the wedding night and fooled around, and that started contractions. So poor Jamie was in contractions for a week.
Wow.
Just, we went to the hospital several times. They kept telling us, like, you're jarring things loose, but you're not ready. We almost thought my kid was going to be born on my birthday, which is February 18th, but it lasted 2 more days. So February 20th, my daughter Haley was born.
Were you
and-
rooting for it, Steve?
Was I rooting for her?
Not rooting for her to happen on your birthday.
Yeah, kind of. I thought that would have been cool,
Yeah.
to share the birthday. But, she probably wouldn't have. Yeah, she got older in life, so.
Yeah.
It worked out how it needed to, and but then things got even more complicated because, I'll give you the short version. But about 4 or 5 days after Haley was born, I came home and I asked Jamie, like, what is this big like bruise that's on the side of her face? Like, did she roll off the changing table or something? And long story short, we go to the doctor, and my daughter was born with a type of birth defect. It was it's called a hemangioma. It's a non-cancerous tumor, and it can grow anywhere on the body, and it can grow internally, it can grow externally, and these things can cause problems if they get big. Now, our doctor scared the crap out of us by showing us a picture with this kid that had like the size of a frickin' watermelon on the side of their head. So here we are, brand new parents, just married, just lost the talk show, now have a child, and the child has a serious medical problem. So we start going to the children's hospital. She had to get steroid injections once a week directly into this tumor, which kept her up all night. She wasn't eating food, wasn't digesting. So the whole first year of her life was just, I mean, we weren't sleeping. The kid was being, tortured, for lack of a better term. And it drove me to the brink of bankruptcy because I had lost my health insurance when we lost everything. And I started putting all the medical bills on my credit card. And that reached a point of $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 where the monthly payments on my credit card were now infinitely more than I was making.
Yeah.
So here we are. This is now a year later. And we've been trying to get the Vocal Minority back on the air. Hasn't been happening. We're, neither Jamie or I were from Seattle, so we had no family around. And we reached this point. We all had the flu one day. Jamie and I and Haley. We were all.
I remember it, dude. That was the breaking point.
It was the breaking point. We just realized, we can't do this alone. We need family around us. We need people to help us. We need people to be part of this process. I can't get this talk show back on the air to save our lives. I can't get any real radio job here in Seattle. So that was the day that I called Nick and said, yeah, I got to go. I got to move,
Yeah.
I can't keep doing this. And, I felt immensely guilty. I felt like I was the one that was, putting the stake in the heart of this whole show that we've been building up and ruining on my chance at having some career that I could actually afford a family and kid and all that stuff. And so, I said,
you
I
shouldn't
got to
have
move.
felt guilty, dude. I mean, we all knew. We were all watching the struggle. And I don't know if you even remember that. Do you even remember that conversation?
You and I talking?
Yeah.
No, I remember calling you. I mean, I remember the traumatic part. I remember calling you and having to man up and tell you, I got to move. And back in those days, the technology didn't exist for us to be doing a talk show like this in separate studios. All three of us right now are in separate states, and that wasn't really possible back then. And no one was looking to take the show. We couldn't find a morning show. We had become branded as shock jocks. So then, some morning show didn't want us, or all of our demos were based on that. So we just hit rock bottom.
Yeah, we just
couldn't
hit a
do it
wall.
personally or professionally. So had to leave, move from Seattle. And I felt like I was just killing this talk show permanently.
Well, you moved on to other responsibilities. I think it's just called growing up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I looked at it. When you called, obviously I was bummed, but I wasn't bummed for me. I was bummed for all of us, and it was the writing on the wall. And to be honest with you, it was probably the right move because who knows how long we would have spun our wheels anyway. Brewski was dying financially. I was dying financially. We were all in financial ruins. So, it was probably the right move. And it just so happened to be so you could give your daughter and wife at the time a better life,
Yeah.
So
talk about high to low. A year prior, we were all doing our talk show, living the dream, getting ready to go full time, and then we just got hammered over the freaking head.
And in that same time period, I was when I got all my bad news with my health. I was just like, oh, this is all just raining down on us, dude.
Yeah.
So
do you want to share how your 2006 was?
My 2006 started fantastic, obviously, with all the show stuff. But
no, that's 05.
05, yeah.
Yeah.
So 2006, I am in a different relationship than I am now, and I thought it was, it was pretty solid at the time. We're still great friends, but I started getting sick, and I thought it was because we were just working so hard, dude. We were working late, sleeping very little, and it never stopped. So the first symptom of this whole thing was I was hanging out one night, and I was like, oh, shit, I cannot see. I can see, but I see two of everything, dude. I cannot see what's going on in like normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually driving into work when I really started to notice it, which was I was on the freeway, and I was like, I'm having a really hard time seeing. And then I had to go in and do a radio shift.
Yeah, you getting like tunnel vision, right? Wasn't that what it was?
It was double vision. So I was seeing two of everything, and I didn't really start to notice it until there were lights blinking in the I-90 bridge because they were doing cleaning in there, and my eyes couldn't keep up with the lights, so everything just looked like I was tripping out on acid.
Yeah.
You know. So to make a long story short, go through that, and they didn't know what it was. I mean, at the time they thought I had a brain tumor, and they were doing MRIs, which are not nearly as good as they are now. You know, it was still like the X-ray machine that they put up the big plastic sheet on the light box and look at it, and they couldn't see nearly as good. So they're like, no, we don't see a tumor or anything in there. We're just gonna wait it out for a while. So I had that for like 3.5 or 4 months before it started to heal. And I had to wear these weird glasses. I don't know if you remember that, but it had like a weird piece that would hopefully help me see a little bit better.
Yeah.
So go through that, goes away, and I'm like, oh, good, I'm in the clear, dude. It was just something weird, right?
Something you ate. No big deal.
Yeah, something I ate. Yeah, I must have. You know what? Actually, I thought I pinched a nerve. That was what I reduced it to. I was like, I pinched a nerve of sorts. So goes on, and to make a long story short, I wake up one morning and the entire side of my left body is numb. I can't feel, anything on the entire side of my left body. Now I'm freaking out. So I go back to the doctor. They're like, yeah, you must have pinched a nerve or something. It's crazy. And it took about 4 months for it to get right. Woke up another morning and the whole right side of my body had gone numb. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous, dude. I mean, I was scared, obviously, but I was like, we gotta figure out what this is. So finally, they sent me into the hospital to go see a neurological specialist. And they diagnosed me with multiple sclerosis, which at the time I was like, oh, I finally got an answer, which gave me some sort of relief.
Yeah.
But then I switch in right away to,
That's not a good answer.
Thinking what I know about the disease, which at the time was very little, right? I just knew all the horror story sides of it. So all that shit starts going through your head. So like as far as headspace goes at 2006, I mean, we were both a bad spot for trying to figure out where we were going in life and what we were going to do.
No kidding. I don't know what karma we did to deserve any of this crap.
Figure out how I was going to deal with all of that,
Yes. So Nick's got MS.
So
go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's exactly right. So we're dealing with all of that, and then the show implodes, and, Steve's going to move. So like I said, it was kind of the best time for you to probably pull the plug. You probably did me a favor, dude. I don't know. It's not like I hadn't thought about it, right? It was that it was difficult to man up and talk about like what needed to be done was, probably this. But at the time, I also wondered, well, you had to be near family, which the closest family to you was Lake Tahoe. And that was where your wife at the time was from. I also wondered how friendship-wise and professionally we would survive that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, all those questions
it was tough
going
times.
through our head.
This is depressing the shit out of me to listen to our story right now. I got to tell you. Jeez. Someone make a movie out. Copyright, okay? Like, and by the way, this is the tip of the freaking iceberg. I got so much more on my list. You guys are going to.
You got anything risky? Anything devastating?
That was Euro
506
risky.
Well, I was fortunate that I got a call after everything happened with the buzz, and I got a call from a local radio station and asked if I wanted to talk to them about coming on to their morning show.
Yes, because we made you famous in that town. So yeah,
you did,
or infamous, one of the two.
Well, and the thing about it is that the first 2 weeks on that show, we would get so many calls on that show, and they would say, "Hey, can I talk to Brewski?"
Brewski.
Brewski?
Brewski.
Brewski?
I love it.
And so my producing partner at the time was this girl from ESPN. This is a sports station, by the way. And she's just like, you know what? You have a lot of people calling and asking to talk to you. And then the host of the show hits me in talk back. He's like, what the hell's going on over there? And I was just like, oh well, some folks from my old show want to talk to me and everything, that sort of thing. So we come back from break, and so Mitch decides to ask me about it on the air. And sometimes they always say, don't ask questions you don't want the answer to.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we specialize in that. Yes.
Well, he asked my producer partner at the time, Lex, how many of these calls are coming in that want to talk to, and what he called me Schmitty, but and she's just like, well, we have 12 phone lines, and probably about 7 or 8 of them on a regular basis want to talk to him, or at least just say hi to him, and they want to talk to him on the air. And
damn it, dude.
And I was just like,
do you see what we had started, people?
Yeah, that's it's just painful. Damn it.
It really is.
Steve found the old focus group CD that we hijacked from the Buzz. They did a focus group on it. Yeah, he's holding it up right there. And speaking of things, don't listen. Don't ask questions you don't want the answers to. We went in to listen to this whole focus group, and I'm like, oh man, this could be painful, because usually when you do a focus group, there's things people hate, there's things people love, but
or they don't know who you are.
Right. And a radio show, for the most part, is usually, even if they turn out to be successful, in early focus groups especially, are going to get hated on. People are going to be like, I don't like those people, blah, blah, blah.
And it's common in radio for people to complain about stuff. That's what the vocal minority really is, the people that call the station and complain. They'll always call you and tell you something sucks. They rarely ever call you and say something is awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So when they do, you should probably put it up on a top shelf in gold. So we decided to listen to this focus group. And I don't remember. I mean, I know there was some bad on there, but I would say that like 85-90% of it was like really gold material, like even recommending us to replace other shows on the radio station.
Yeah. That focus group was part of what got us the offer to come full time there. Because the management, Dave, I don't know, didn't seem to be a big fan of us. He was kind of putting up with us. But then the audience was just forcing themselves on us in the station to say, like, no, we really like this Nick and Steve, the vocal minority thing. And yeah, so this is what I mean, like the greatest talk show that ever was. We had all of this stuff going in our favor. Even Brewski here goes to another talk show, and they just want to talk to Brewski. I mean, it was crazy. And then, like we said, it all got derailed. I had to leave Seattle. I moved to Lake Tahoe, which was not the worst place in the world to move to, but I was completely defeated, and started over at a radio station there, basically.
Yeah, and it started over with a whole new family, no friend group. I mean, it was a big move for sure. And now you're a new dad and trying to get your daughter over a health issue. So, it was a big time.
Yeah.
But things started going well, right?
Yeah, so, I show up in Tahoe, and there is literally like 2 radio stations there. And one of them was like this kind of adult rock station. And I show up with my my resume from Seattle and Wichita and Baltimore and all my experience. And at that time, I was doing syndicated ski reports out of my home studio. So I was doing I was doing like 20 different radio stations throughout the ski season. So this little small town radio station immediately, like I kid you not, I dropped my resume off, and within 30 minutes, the general manager called me and said, "Come on back. We're not hiring, but you tell us what you want to do, and we'll find a job for you here." So, I started off as the midday guy, and then over the years, it actually didn't take very long. I was midday, then I became program director, ops manager, general manager, and, further on down the line. I don't want to get too far ahead of my timeline, but I landed in small market radio in Paradise, and I kind of checked out. I stopped paying attention to what the rest of the radio world was doing. I did struggle to keep touch with all my friends, you guys included, and was just hyper-focused on trying to be a dad and, get the kid through all these, medical issues and not go crazy and not have my wife and I kill each other because we were broke. When I moved here, I ran out of money like halfway between Seattle and Northern California, Like literally, I had no money. I remember being in a drive-through line at McDonald's, and they declined my debit card. I couldn't even buy a freaking cheeseburger. I had to call, my dad. I had to call my wife's parents, and somebody please, get me a hotel. Can somebody?
Starving.
If I show up at a gas station, will you call and put the gas on your car? Like I have to finish this move. So I showed up in Lake Tahoe just completely broke, completely defeated from everything that had gone on. But yeah, so life moves forward. So that would have been through, I guess, 2007 at that point.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any '07 highlights before we move on?
Brewski, you got to have something from '07. When did you when did you leave your relationship, dude? How old were you?
Oh, that wasn't until 2013.
With you and Jen, you stayed together that long?
Yeah, unfortunately so. We probably should have cut. Well, here's the thing. So
it's easy in hindsight. I get it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So one of it was probably 2006. I'm working at the sports station, and that's when I got my dog. That was when I got Penelope. And one day I'm at the park in Seattle, and Jen comes to me after work and meets me at the park because I brought Penelope to work with me every day. And she says, "Hey, don't you think that you might be happier if you were with someone else that liked what you liked and that sort of thing?"
Ouch. Yeah.
And yeah, and by that point we had bought a house in Tacoma, so just south of Seattle.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was just like,
So you're
no.
living. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Living together.
Yeah.
You bought a house. You got a dog together, and then go ahead.
Yeah, and then here she goes and drops that on me. And in hindsight, I should have just said, "Yeah, no problem." I could have gotten an apartment up in Seattle, right by the radio station, kept the dog, and would have been fine. But we stayed together another 7 years.
Wow.
Which was, to be honest, at least 6 years too long, if not longer.
Sounds like it was 8 years too long, actually.
Oh, believe me, it was. We just weren't right for each other. This was just one of those things. We were good as friends, but awful as a couple.
It's hard, dude, when you, well, I mean, I could say this for my relationship with Heather was a 13-year relationship. And it's hard when you love somebody as a friend to find a way out of it that doesn't demolish everything you have together. As like I know you felt this way about Jen to a certain degree, where like you guys she was your best friend. I mean,
we were absolute so tight. We really were. We were so different from each other, but to me, that's what made it even more fun.
Sure,
because she wasn't a metal fan, but I got her listening to Maiden and Priest and everything to the point where I would do stuff like if we were making like egg salad, I would sing "Egg Slicer," and she would come up with a high-pitched background saying "Egg Slicer," and I wouldn't even have to ask her to do it.
Oh, the good old days, dude.
Yeah,
the good old days.
But I didn't have to even ask her to do it. Like I would do it, and then she would jump in and do her part of it without me even asking.
That's what I'm saying, dude. The peanut butter to your jelly. It's hard to split the sandwich when all the elements aren't working, but there are some that are so good. They call it now in these times we're living in, you were living as roommates, you were living as friends, and that's exactly what Heather and I had become. We were great friends who happened to be roommates. We slept in the same bed. We just didn't hardly ever have sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was just a roommate style relationship.
Yeah.
Well, and here's another question for you guys, real quick, and this is on that relationship thing.
Sure.
Please.
Did you have problems kind of explaining to who you were involved with, or in Steve's case, married to, about radio and like how the business worked, how you could lose a job just that quick? Because Jen, when we got fired that day, and I came home from work, she was like, "How did they just fire you? And what do you do going forward? Are you going to have a job? What's going on?" Because we were living in an apartment in Seattle when we all got fired, and it's funny because I talked to one of the show that came on at nighttime at the Buzz, and one of the members of that show said to me,
You can say it. The men's room. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the men's room. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Miles said to me one time, he said, "You know what? I've been trying to explain to my girlfriend of 15 years what radio was like and what the financial realities are of radio, and she still doesn't get it even 15 years later."
Yeah.
I think it's a hard thing for anybody that's not in the business to understand. I was lucky in that aspect of when I was with Heather. I was with her before I got my first job in radio, so she had kind of come this full journey with me and understood as I was growing in radio what radio was like and about. But I remember Jen being really hard on you for the money you made or didn't make, and getting tossed around and stuff. I think that's pretty common. I don't know how Jamie was with you, Steve, but her too. You kind of introduced her to that world of radio, and she was kind of living in it for a while. You know?
Yeah, when we first met, you and I had just started the syndicated version of the Vocal Minority. So she came in as this thing was all launching. And there's old tape somewhere of us talking about this girl I met on Match.com, which was a brand new website back then. And, our whole relationship unfolding. I remember one of the first things I did was I showed her the movie Private Parts with Howard Stern. And the scene at the gas station where he's telling his wife, like, I've got to just be real. I got to stop. I don't want to be one of these DJs moving all over. I got to be true. I got to, put all my dirty laundry out there. And I showed her that. And it was like, this is what I am living right now. And if you are not okay with that, then it's been great. And she embraced it. And like Nick said, the original talk show was out of my house, and Jamie was living there at that time. So she was around all of us constantly and probably saw it from a little different perspective. But even her, once everything blew up, it wasn't quite computing. Well, how come someone else isn't going to hire you? Or, why can't we move to wherever and take a job there? And it's hard. It's a hard concept that most people don't understand about radio, that there is no freaking job security. You can lose your job at the drop of a hat. Even if you've been the morning show for 20 years, you may lose your job because you've been the morning show for 20 years, and we want something new now, so go away.
Listen, dude, I was telling somebody this, we were at a law conference this past weekend, and, my wife's an attorney, and those people always ask me, "Oh, you're in radio, tell me all about what it's like." To an annoying level, right? Yeah. And I'm having this conversation with somebody this weekend, and I was saying how easy it was to be fired and how many times I've been fired and let go. And how a lot of these firings came with no animosity. It's just business, right? It's time to go. Yeah. So much as though that I have been fired and hired by one person. Yeah. I had the same guy fire me twice and hire me twice. Yeah. And that's not uncommon in radio.
No, you usually don't get fired for fault. It's not like you showed up to work drunk or something. It was just, It's a format issue or a program, whatever it is. And they taught me in broadcasting school, you're not a real DJ until you've been fired at least once. So we're all bona fide DJs, let me tell you.
Well, I'll tell you what, you saying that's exactly what they told us the first day of broadcasting school. Yeah. You're nobody in this business till you've been fired at least once.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what? And it's hard to get fired in a sense because I worked with men who masturbated and slept at the radio station, all this kind of weird stuff that they never got fired for.
Oh, yeah.
I knew people who left drugs in the studio and they never got fired for it.
That might have been me. But, substance abuse and nudity and all of these things that in a normal workplace would be completely insane was commonplace in radio.
Yeah,
but it's a horse of a different color, and it's one that's kind of burned me out. So
yes, for sure. Which is why we're on the interwebs. When I first heard a podcast, dude, I was like, "Come on, amateurs, let's do this."
Yeah,
this is a real radio. Yeah, right. And here we are today.
Well, and back then, podcasting was in its infancy, and it has just exploded over these years. And the reason there is no good new talk radio talent. Because the industry is not fostering it. They're not hiring new people. They're not, cultivating new talent. But also because it's so much easier to go to podcasting. You don't have the FCC to worry about. You don't have a Dave Richards to worry about. An Intercom that's a corporation, publicly traded.
Sure.
They don't want to deal with shock jocks. Country radio is much safer. So everything has migrated to the internet. And I'm ready to break free. Hallelujah. Be done with all of that. And
I see why. I see why Stern was so delighted to go to satellite radio because a lot of it wasn't even the freedom of just 100% being able to say exactly what you wanted and curse and all of that stuff. It was just to be free from the boot that is corporate radio these days, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, if you notice, by the way, the first, like for the first few months when Stern was on satellite, like they all swore a lot because it was a new novelty sort of thing.
Sure.
Yes,
But then,
new toy.
but once they kind of got that worked out of there, then it was kind of like, okay, a swear might slip out here and there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like when they first got there and they were like, oh my God, we can say whatever the hell we want.
Yeah.
We can say fuck and shit and we can call someone a cunt if we want. And you know,
At some point in time, it just became, let's just talk how we talk regularly.
Right.
exactly.
Stern would have gone to podcasting if he had delayed it, but he went to satellite radio, and he is the foundation of that whole thing. So they've treated him well, and he essentially is podcasting there. But that's where everything was headed towards.
Yes.
So little did we know we were sticking this show on a shelf and waiting for the time to rebirth it. But I digress. Let's go back to 2009. That's where I'm. Oh wait, let me see what's on my historical timeline. Here's a fun one. 2007. You know what was introduced? The iPhone.
2007?
Yes, the iPhone was introduced in 2007. I was telling Nick before we went on that when we did this talk show, I didn't even have a cell phone. I didn't have to mute my phone or ignore text whenever we did the show before. I was late to the game getting a cell phone, but the iPhone, that was.
I'm with you.
was
I didn't have one
game-changer.
either.
Yeah.
I had a cell phone, but there wasn't a way to mute it. You just had to turn it off.
Right, throw it out the window, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, iPhones. Our talk show predates iPhones, kids. Okay, just to make
That's
you feel
right.
old.
Step right up. Step right up.
Ridiculous. Okay, so 2008, we already mentioned this, but yes, Obama, finally, a light of hope, a president that spoke in complete sentences, gave us affordable health care, killed bin Laden, had no controversies, tragedies, didn't cheat on his wife, just a breath of fresh air.
He did wear a tan suit, dude. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, that was terrible. That was his biggest controversy, and he did not look good in it, I will admit, but that was a golden era. And we didn't realize how good we had it. I remember when that guy won, I literally stood up and was just like, yes, like I voted for you. I've been fighting for you. You did it. And it just felt good to have a competent president. Not even understanding where things were going to go after that. It just felt good at that time.
And it also, I mean, it was also fantastic that we had the first African American president. I mean, it felt like things were going to be changing, you know?
Yeah, racism was over, everyone. Got that solved.
Yeah.
Well, if you listen to conservative talk radio, they'll tell you that. They'll say, well, they can't be racism anymore. We had a black president.
Yeah.
Like that was going to clean it all up, you know?
No,
It's
it actually
interesting.
made things worse, quite frankly, because that happens. The pendulum, you get a victory one way, the other side swings it the other way.
Well, it's interesting, too, because, I think it's probably safe to say that, like, all of us probably have some sort of conservative folks in our family somewhere. One of them happens to be one of my best friends, who's my brother. And we couldn't be further across the political line. And he always tells me, oh, do you have any idea how divisive President Obama was? And it always makes me laugh, dude. And again, it's hard to hear from him because I love him and I respect him in most ways. But I can't comprehend that. I cannot comprehend somebody saying that, where I never thought he was divisive in any way. I thought he was so inclusive and...
Now, if he rubbed you the wrong way, I suppose that made you feel divided. But you have to ask yourself, why was he rubbing you the wrong way?
100%.
Yeah, exactly. So because he is espousing beliefs that people should be more inclusive, that people who didn't once have a seat at the table should have a seat at the table. Well, the people who have already been sitting at the table, they don't like that.
Right.
They like for you to be away from the table and just take the scraps that they're going to throw off the table to you and be happy with what you get.
This is a topic we're probably going to be discussing a lot on this show as we move forward in the real format. Again, this is sort of our practice show, get to know us and testing everything out. But I will never understand I'm a proud liberal, and people always there's a faction out there that try to accuse us of being radical somehow, as if wanting to treat people fairly is radical, believing in science is radical. Like, I have always argued that liberalism is just logic. Give me an issue, I will look at the logical side of it, and that tends to be the liberal side somehow.
Yeah,
100%.
No religion, no fairy tales out of a book written 2,000 years ago.
Yes.
Nothing like that at all.
No.
But I'll tell you what, though, with that said, Brewski, I mean, even with being a liberal, it is inclusive for everybody to have that choice of what they want to do as far as religion goes. Like, doesn't affect me, go for it, dude. Doesn't hurt me personally that you're doing it, go for it. I don't care what you do as long as you're not harming others. Go for it, dude, no matter what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm living in a conservative neck of the woods nowadays. I live in I moved from Tahoe. We'll get there eventually, but I'm in the rural corner of California. There's a bunch of farms around here. One farm has a sign that they had professionally made up. It wasn't just some handwritten sign. It says, "Discourage liberal intolerance, violence, and hate." And I've got to pull over one day and say, can you give me an example of liberal violence, intolerance, and hate? Because I'm intolerant of your ignorance, or I hate your backwoods ways? Is that what you're referring to?
They're going to point to Antifa and all these groups that they have somehow deemed as liberal folks.
Right.
How
them Proud Boys treating you?
I think the other part of that is that they say that we don't stand for, quote, traditional American values, end quote. And they'll also tell you, but exactly. But then they'll also tell you how things were so great back in the good old days of the 50s and that sort of thing. And then I say, what, when women barely had the right to do anything at all, have a checking account in their own name?
Yeah, for who? Who are they good for? That's the question. Right.
Exactly.
And most of the people that say that weren't alive in the 50s or were in their infancy. It's just some nostalgic picture they have in their head that was never real.
Exactly. No.
Yes.
No.
It's apple pie and baseball.
Yeah.
Little
like
racism. Who cares?
Right. The good old days. We'll discuss more of this as we move forward, I assure you. And this is part of the vocal minority. Like, I would like to talk to some people who are on that side of things. I would really like to try to get below the surface. Because as I've learned, Nick, anger is not the primary emotion. It's a secondary emotion. So what's the first one? Are you sad? Are you hurt? Like, what is it about America that you think is bad that triggers all of this anger? Because we're supposed to be a progressive country, an accepting, tolerant, melting pot. Everyone's welcome. That's what America is supposed to be. And somehow you've tainted it to be something that is not that at all. So...
You've been hurt. You summed it up perfectly, dude. They have been hurt and done wrong in some way, and it's just like the story of the boy being bullied at school that your father says, you know what, go and give him a punch in the old nose and put an end to it.
Yeah. I just don't understand what is so scary about minorities becoming more involved in society, or gay people getting married, or accepting science is real. Like, what is scary or off-putting about that to you?
It's a huge conversation, that we'll have to have sometime. But I know that for one thing, from what I gather in my readings, people are very afraid of white people, white straight people, especially men, becoming the minority in this country. And I hate to tell you, but that's where we're heading. That will be very true in our lifetime, in the three of us
and
sitting
it's
here. It'll be
Bring
here
it
in our
on.
lifetime.
Take
Why
some of
is
the burden
that an
off
issue?
us white men. We've been heavy lifting for so long. Okay, I'm ready to hand it over.
Oh God!
At the same time, though, some of the people who are the most vocal about these things, will come at you with the like this past weekend. As a matter of fact, it's funny you mentioned this. I had a passenger in my Uber car complaining about cis white males, as in cisgender white males.
Sure.
Yes.
And I'm sitting in the car right there. I'm driving them along, and then she looks at me, and at one point she's just like, like you're probably a cis white male. And I was just like, what'd you say? And then she's just like, you weren't listening to me? And I just said, listen,
Typical white male.
Yes.
and I said, listen, you know what? My mind's got to be on the road here. It's
Yeah,
I
really.
said, it's 1:30 in the morning. You know there are drunk drivers out here. I got to get you home safe. And then she was like, okay, whatever. And then she
Yeah.
went back to talking to her friend about it. But it's that kind of thing where
Yeah.
it's just I'm all for inclusivity. But when
Yeah.
you start like throwing that crap around and you're throwing it at someone who's doing his job and driving you home, and you want to start attacking me because you're pissed at somebody who might have been inappropriate with you at a
Yes.
bar, talk to that guy, not me.
So
you
much
know?
conversation to have. dude.
This is
So
a
much
whole other topic that,
conversation.
yes, we will get into. And Obama, speaking of him, brought it up recently. The liberal firing squad.
Yeah.
Those of us that are pretty much aligned have to stop picking on each other for not being pure enough. And this is
Yes.
a debate I've had with my own offspring and plenty of friends that if you're attacking me, you've overshot way too far because I'm on your side. So
You're expecting us to be a mirror, and that cannot happen, dude. Let's
No,
just
exactly.
Relax a little bit here.
All right, so moving forward, 2009, first of all, some of us were late to the game, but more or less somewhere around 08, 09, Facebook became a big thing.
You were late to the game, dude.
I was, and I joined in like 09. I know some of you were 07, 08-ish, but it was around that era that Facebook became a thing, something that is now so omnipresent in our lives. Again, it makes me feel old, but yes, kids, we were
Changes
around
our world
before
forever,
Facebook.
right?
Yes. Yeah. I did a Google search for us the other day for the Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve, and our MySpace page came up. Nothing is there. It just is a blank page, like they got rid of the content, but that's how far back it goes. And yeah, Facebook was a new thing.
Hey,
That's
by the way-
hysterical.
By the way, do you think Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook because he didn't have any friends and he needed friends, so he created this product to get friends?
Pretty much.
Possibility. Yeah.
I mean, it was first about rating hot chicks, right? That was the
Yeah,
original.
it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And he was a
say
college
that-
kid in Boston. This is Boston's fault. You understand that, right, Brewski?
He was at Harvard, which is Cambridge, and it's
It's
very
Boston's fault.
different.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll take it.
I'm just trying to get Brewski fired up. That's all. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know, Brewski, you're my only friend and certainly my only coworker / employee or whatever that has ever threatened to kick my ass on more than one occasion, might I add. And it is so Bostonian of you. Brewski and I
back
would
up
get
for
in-
a second, dude. Back up. What
Yeah.
do you mean? I remember Brewski threatening you one time, but did it happen more than once?
It happened twice.
Okay.
The most famous one was the buzz in the station vehicle. We all remember this, right?
Oh, no, yeah. We were going to a promotional event.
We were done. We were wrapping up.
Was I there?
Yeah. We did. It was a vocal minority night at some bar in Seattle, and the whole show
Yeah.
went down there. We were hosting, drinking games and throwing out T-shirts and whatever.
Oh,
And I don't even remember what happened, but when we left the event, I don't know if we were all snipping at each other or what happened, but we got all of us into the buzz station vehicle, and I snapped at Brewski about something, and he pulled a freaking donut in the parking lot of the
I remember this.
of the client that we just left in the station vehicle, decorated 100 with the buzz, and he's doing a peel out there. And I started, I yelled something at him, and he was just like, "You want to fucking go? You want to fucking fight, man?" Like, Brewski, take it down a notch. No, I want to not get us all fired or arrested. But that's just the Bostonian.
hysterical,
And then
dude.
there was some fight in the Buzz Studios where the same thing. We were arguing about a show prep topic or something. He's just like, "You want to go? You want to go right now, Randy?" Hey, dude, no.
Oh
No,
my
I
god,
don't want to, actually.
It's so funny, dude. You get to a place in your adult life where you don't think you'll fight anymore. Like we'll just have a conversation and we may yell at each other, but like we're not gonna fight each other. But
that's
Brewski
pure
goes the other
Boston,
way,
baby.
dude. Yeah.
Well,
You're
you know,
Boston.
no. Here's the thing. I actually will admit that I had one other incident in radio after the vocal minority where I threatened somebody,
Nice.
but
Their life?
I don't feel special.
no. But I will. But I will say the two with Steve were
Yeah.
were completely like inappropriate and that sort of thing. The one at the sports station,
Yeah.
He had it
completely
coming.
appropriate. Yeah, because he was getting in the face of my producer partner. She was crying, and he was getting in her face. And this is the host of the show.
What'd you say to him, dude? Was it Mitch?
Yes, it was Mitch.
What'd you say to him?
I told him that if he didn't get out of her face and get into the studio immediately, that I didn't care if we were on the air. I was going, and I had fists up, ready to go. I was going to stop beating on his ass right there. And I
Brewski,
actually
stop. Oh, Brewski.
Brewski.
Brewski?
Brewski.
Brewski?
and I got pulled into the PD's office after the show.
Did they fire you? No, right?
They did not, and I explained, but I explained what happened and how inappropriate it was, and
You were defending a woman's honor.
Brewski,
Yeah.
when is the last time you laid your hands on anyone?
Good question.
no. Well, I did have to. What was it during the pandemic? I did have to physically throw someone out of my car, an Uber passenger.
Wow. Physically,
did?
you drugged them out of the car.
I had to.
Wow.
I had to. Well, because
Why?
he was a anti-vaxxer, anti-masker, and he was yelling at me, why are you wearing a mask? And so I'm also wearing a mask at this point that looks like a lucha wrestling mask, right?
That's very Brewski as well. So I like that was your mask, dude.
Is
do
it
you
the
have a
one
video?
that I gave you?
No, it's this.
There you go.
It's one similar to this right here.
Those of you
All right.
watching our video on YouTube can see Brewski right now.
So anyway, so I'm wearing a mask like that, and handmade, by the way, by a lovely shop in Tijuana, Mexico.
Wow.
course.
Yeah. And so, but he's like hassling me, and he sees my mask, and he's like, "Oh, you think you're a tough guy because you're wearing a wrestling mask?" So I put the car in park, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna have to ask you to get out of my car. And he's like, "No, I'm not getting. No, you're giving me a ride home." I canceled his ride on Uber, and I said, "Listen, I just canceled your ride, and you got a complete refund. Get out of my car. F you, fuck off," and all that sort of thing. So I got out of the car. I opened the door, and he literally went on his back like a turtle instead of trying to kick me with his feet.
Wow. Wow.
I
Yeah.
love it, dude.
Dude,
Did
do
you
you
grab his
videotape?
ankles?
What's that?
Do you
No, I
videotape these people?
I should actually.
You
I need
should.
to-
Yes.
I have to put a camera in my car, actually, both for the passengers and also for while I'm driving, because I had an accident with a drunk driver back in January.
Yeah.
Guy was wasted.
Be
Dude,
good show
I-
content too. So
I
help us
will
out.
buy you a dash cam.
No,
if you-
I'll get one for the car. Yeah, for sure.
Will you give us the material?
Absolutely. And you know what's funny is I actually got asked one time by a group of really hot chicks when I got in the car, and they said, "Are you filming us?" And I was like, "No." Well, why do you ask? And they said, "Oh, our last Uber, he was filming it. And he said he uploads the videos onto YouTube." And I just flippantly, which I don't know, I don't do this because you don't want to get reported to Uber. But I was like, "Why? What would you do if the camera was there? Would you like flash it or something?" And one of the girls was like, "Yeah, probably. I have a really great set of tits." And I looked at it, I'm like, you know what? They actually look pretty good through your shirt
Oh
at
my
least.
gosh, you were horny that night, dude.
No, well, I'm
A
at
little
that age.
bit.
I'm at that age. What can I say?
Hey,
What do you
And-
mean you're at that age?
You've been at that age. Let's be honest.
Did you see him?
No. But it was
Aw.
just, but it's just funny because they assume that I was filming them. So I need to put that in the car,
Mhm.
especially since my new car for Uber, because I've just bought a car in June specifically for Uber, is a very large SUV. It's a Ford Flex, and there's plenty of space in there for the camera to film. So,
How you get that going, Brewski?
yeah, I got that going, and then we can put that up on the show and something. But
Yes, please.
anyway, it's rare. It's rare when it happens.
All right. Let's see. So what was that's 2009. I have another serious life event from 2009 and a fun
I
story.
think I got
about
married in 2009 too,
it.
didn't
Was
I?
that the year? I was going to
I
say.
think so.
Yeah. 'cause
Wow.
It's so funny. When we signed off, neither of us was married. Nobody had kids on the show. I mean, we were such juveniles. And then life just caught up to us all in significant speed.
How many years ago was 2009?
13.
Oh, maybe I got married in 2008. I got married in 2008. In
You should know
November
the
of
answer to this.
2008. Yeah,
Okay.
I did. That's what I'm telling you right now. You
How'd
wouldn't
that
know
go
if I
down?
did.
How did you propose? I don't know if I've ever heard this story.
I proposed in a fantastic way. Okay.
Were legal
first of
documents required for this?
No, it was not. Okay, so first of all, I should probably back up and say that my wife I've known her since we went to second grade together, and we went all the way through, graduation together.
Nick's got pictures of him and Rachel, like in second grade class together. It's so cool.
Yeah, and we never dated in high school, and after we both got out of high school, we went our separate ways. She joined the Army, and she was married once before. I mean, so I had gotten out of this long relationship that I was talking about earlier, and living by myself, and I saw her on MySpace. Funny enough.
Right.
And started talking to her, and I invited her to a Seahawks game because I know she likes football. So I was like, oh, we should go to the Seahawks game together. So we ended up going to the Seahawks game together. And not to be a big downer, but at the time, her dad was like days from death. She had moved back home from California to take care of her dad before he passed away. So she almost didn't go on that date, and her dad was like, no, you need a break. Get out. Go have some fun. So she went out on the date with me, and then we started hanging out after that. And then her dad passed away. And at the same time, my dad was sick and dying. So I guess we just sort of bonded very quickly, because we were both kind of going through the same type of thing. And we had all that history together, so it was just that much easier. We knew all the same old people. We knew, it was easy to talk to each other. So when it came to proposing, though, I had bought a ring, and when it came from the jeweler, was like, oh, it's ready to be picked up. So I went and picked it up, and we were living together at the time. And I was like, oh, I just don't know if I can wait. I had all these grand ideas of how I would propose, but that ring was just like burning a hole in my pocket. I just wanted to ask her very, very quickly, and I don't know why, other than I was just excited to make her my wife, But my proposal story was we went to the gym. I had the ring in my pocket. After the gym, we were sweaty, and we went to Azteca, across from the old radio station we used to work at.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Had some Mexican food, and we were on our way back home.
Sweaty, gassy. Okay,
Sweaty,
this is a good
gassy.
setup.
Yeah, this is perfect, dude. Instead of asking her to marry me, I was trying to throw her off, and I was like, oh, you know what? When I do ask you to marry me, I mean, I think it would just be most important that you knew that you were my best friend, that I care about you more than anything. And I kept adding on to this. Like, I'd really want you to know this. I'd really want you to know that.
Right.
And we were driving, and I was like, oh, you should pull over here real quick. So she pulls over, and she still has no idea at this point what's going on, other than I'm acting really odd. Because this is really out of character for me. And yes, we had
Pull
just
over real quick,
finished
sorry.
beans and everything else. And I just asked her on the side of the road. I asked her on the side of the road.
Oh, like Jim and Pam.
Like Jim and Pam, dude. It was sort of, it was sort of like that. I mean, and then after it was all over, I was like, oh man, maybe I should have waited and done that thing that I was thinking about.
No, that's cool. I like
but
that.
here we are. I mean, we're married. It's been 14 years or whatever, so I think that it's going all right.
Yeah, so far so good. Well, that's
And besides taking her to like Daniel's Broiler or something, that's just really cliche. You did something original.
Yes, I did something original. It was the Ramos family, dude. I supported the Ramos family.
In 2009, I expanded my family as well. That was the year Jamie came to me, and we basically started talking about, if we're ever going to have a second kid, we should probably get this going, because we didn't want too big of a gap between, the firstborn and the secondborn. Mm-hmm. So, unlike the first time, which, as I explained earlier, was a complete surprise, this one we actually planned out. We set forth on the mission. And it was funny because we assumed we got pregnant so easily the first time that
Go
obviously.
easy.
That's right, baby. It would be sleazy and easy, but it wasn't. We tried a couple of times 1 month and figured that that'll do it, and then test came back negative, not pregnant. So now we were determined. We were like, there is no way in hell we are not going to get pregnant. So we had sex every day for 30 days straight. And it's kind of like, you envision, like I love chocolate ice cream, so I would love chocolate ice cream every day, right? But eventually you start throwing up when you do that. And I've always had this fantasy that, I want sex every day, or I will not be a happy man. That 30 days broke me. After about 20-something days, 20-something days in, I'm just like, I got to catch my breath. Like, we just, can we take a few days off? It taught me a valuable life lesson, kids, that sometimes your eyes are bigger than your body parts or whatever. Like,
I don't even know how you did it.
Well, there was some video taken, if you want me to. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I don't, I think you know how we did it.
Well, I mean, I know how you did it, but I mean, I'm curious to know that, like, after day 20, where you're like, fuck. This again?
There was no like romance involved. No candles were lit or anything. It was just like, we got 5 minutes. Let's go, make a deposit here. And I will say I was exhausted by the end of it. I did learn a valuable lesson that you don't need sex every single day of the week. But after 30 days, hallelujah, it happened. She was pregnant.
30 easy days and get your life back.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know which pump it was on? I mean, do you know?
There's no way to know. There was way too much going on there to dissect it any further. Funny thing was, shortly after that, we had not told anybody. And I took a phone call from somebody told me about a medium in Australia, a psychic that they had talked to, and just swore up and down about this guy is like the real deal. And I told them, it was a relative. I told them, like, get me one for my birthday or Christmas or so. I would love to talk to the guy. So I did about a month after all of that. And I could do a whole show on the things the guy told me and the amount of things that have come true. But the one thing he told me was, he said, I see very clearly that you have 2 kids and your daughter's already born. So let me ask you, is your wife pregnant right now? And I was just like, holy crap. Like, yeah.
You didn't know?
No,
you didn't
know. I
know.
knew, but no one else knew. And so I said, yeah. And he said, listen, I don't normally do this, but it's going to be a boy. It has to be, because I see that you have a boy and a girl, and the girl's already born. So I don't mean to spoil the surprise for you, but it's going to be a boy. And it was. And that was crazy.
He was real crazy, dude. I remember how accurate he was with a number of things.
It was interesting. So, yeah. So it took 30-something days of hard labor, but 9 months later... 9 months. It takes 9 months for a kid to be born, Nick. Did you know that?
No, I had not a clue, dude.
It's not always 1 month. So my son Crosby Harness was born. So
cool little Crosby, dude.
Yes. And to answer your questions, no, I'm not a Crosby, Stills and Nash fan. I'm not a Bing Crosby fan. We were just looking for a cool name, and honestly, it was a guy on the Deadliest Catch, that Alaskan fisherman show.
Yep.
One of the deckhands was named Crosby Levin. And we always thought, like, Crosby, like, that's kind of a cool first name for a little dude. I was going to name him Parker for a long time because of my obsession with Spider-Man here. But at the last minute, I thought, like, I can't be a giant dork and name my kid after Spider-Man. So we changed. We named him Crosby. He was born.
I'm glad you did not name him Parker, dude.
He now wants me. He wishes. Like, you would have named me after Spider-Man? That would have been so cool. Like,
yeah, he wouldn't have thought it was nearly as cool if you would have done it, though.
No, it's just a lesson that you can never do anything right as a parent. So,
yeah.
So that was
fun. By the way, at one point, Jen thought that she might be pregnant.
Yeah.
And
really?
So we were talking about names and that sort of thing. And first of all, she wouldn't, even though she liked Italian names because her family's Italian, she did not like the fact that I wanted to name a baby Bruno for Bruno Sammartino. Right. But then she really put her foot down when I suggested that we name our son, if it was a son, Peter Mitchell.
Oh, from isn't he
Top
from
Gun.
The Family Guy? Oh,
No, Top Gun.
Is that
Mitchell.
Maverick's real name? Pete
Peter
Mitchell.
Yes.
That's
Pete
right.
Mitchell.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right,
yeah. She was like, I am
Top
not
Gun.
naming I am not naming my son Peter Mitchell Fisher. I am
That's
not.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of things that are old and new again, Top Gun is back. We were just waiting for Tom Cruise to come back, and now we're all coming back.
Now here we are.
It's all full circle. All right, Nick, you got anything else from the 09-ish area before I move on to 2010? Don't worry, people. This will fast forward at some point.
No, I don't think so. No, I do not. I'm looking at my list. I don't. 2009. No, I don't. Well, that's the year my dad died. So, yeah, I guess there's that. But other than that, no.
Your dad was a cool dude. So
yeah, he was a cool dude. That's for sure, dude.
I hope he's listening somewhere. Or maybe I hope he's not. I'm actually not sure what the right answer is to that.
I remember when we were doing the Vocal Minority originally that other broadcast people in the industry that he respected asked him, like, are you listening to Nick's show? And he was like, no, I want nothing to do with it. And I was like, okay, well, you gave me all your years when I was on the oldies station, so
yeah.
I'll relieve you of your duties.
That's funny. 2010 was the first time I ever did my own talk show. One of the things that Psychic told me was that you're wasting your time doing music radio. He was like, you go on the radio, you say a lot of stuff, but you're not saying anything. He said, your fate lies in what in Australia we call talkback radio. It's where people, he's like, it's a host and people call in and talk. And I'm like, yeah, we call that talk radio. I said, I used to do a show. He was like, let me tell you, that's where your future lies. He said, at some point in the upcoming years here, you're going to have a chance in that community you're in to do a talk show. And you're not going to want to do it, but take the hit and do it. And so a couple of years later, we had a new new general manager at the station, and he fired the morning show host on our AM news talk station. And he told me, like, hey, I can't give you any more money, but I need you to start showing up at work at 6:30 in the morning and, doing a morning news talk show. And I looked at him, I said, yep, I'll do it. And he was like, really? He was like, you're not going to bitch and moan about money or the hours? I said, nope, I've seen this coming. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. And so for 2 or 3 years, I did a morning talk show by myself. And there was once or twice, Nick, where you were gone, where I did the Vocal Minority without you. So I knew I was capable of it.
Sure.
But it was still vastly intimidating. It's so much easier to do a talk show when you've got other people to lean on.
100%.
Yeah, I started doing it. It was California, Nevada news, national news, and I was not shy at all about my opinions. And I was on right before Rush Limbaugh, by the way. So it was a generally conservative audience, and I dubbed myself lefty liberal in the morning, and I just let it fly on any and every topic. And the station was constantly getting phone calls. The people just wanted me fired and thrown off there. And the general manager at the time had my back and always defended me. Someone actually called the corporate office once and just insisted that I be fired. But I stood the test of time. I had a lot of fun.
Did it feel good to you?
It was cathartic. It's much like doing the show. Like, it's kind of therapy on air. It's your soapbox, your chance to get your thoughts and opinions out there and vent about stuff. And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it. But throughout the entire thing, I mean, almost every show I thought about you guys. I thought about how much I missed doing the show, how much I wished that we could get it back. And, I didn't know where any of it was going, but I tried to just embrace it and have fun and be a proud liberal and piss people off.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't realize until you did that. And I don't know why I didn't realize this, but I didn't realize even how conservative Lake Tahoe was. Like,
there's money here, so there's conservative here.
Yeah, I guess so. But,
and it's like any big city. Conservative stations don't draw the majority of people in that town by any means, but they draw those conservatives out, and they're very loyal listeners, and they're very opinionated and butthurt and angry and all that stuff. So
yeah,
right. They're definitely around here, and they definitely did not like me.
And they know better. That's what they always think.
I just kept showing up every day. I won by living well.
Yeah,
good for you.
So
good for you. Best way to show them harness.
That's right. That was 2010. Anyone else have anything in that era before I skip ahead a year?
Ruski?
No. Everything was kind of going along, I'm still in kind of almost semi-marital in Tacoma,
All right. You guys, you're still there. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So that was what was I saying? 2010, that would have been. Let me just look at my historical sheet here now. A few years off still. Okay. So the next year, still doing the talk radio show here in Lake Tahoe. And being in Lake Tahoe, it's a casino community, so there's always shows coming and going. And there was a comedy club in Tahoe back in those years. And every week, the comedians that were coming through would come down to our radio station. And our morning show host was the host of that comedy club, so he always had the comedians come in every Friday. So I got to meet a lot of these comedians. Some that were on their way up, some on their way down, some that are still just out there doing the circuit or whatever. But there was one guy I met in particular who, when I first met him, I was a little starstruck because it held a special place in my childhood heart.
Who was it?
What theme
Really?
song? What is this, Brewski? Do you know?
Of course I do. This is the Family Ties theme.
Yes.
That's Johnny Mathis.
That is that's Johnny Mathis? Really?
I believe that it is Johnny Mathis who sings that. I could be wrong though. Let me
I have no
check
idea.
on that.
Really?
But it is the Family Ties theme song. I befriended Skippy.
Yeah.
Skippy is my friend.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Didn't you say he was kind of a dick, though?
No. He's not a dick, but he was constantly trying to use his waning celebrity to curry favor. Like, I heard him on the phone in the hallway.
Oh, that's right. He wanted a bunch of free shit.
Yeah,
right?
he was calling like some customer service line. He was just like, "Hey, this is Skippy from NBC's hit sitcom Family Ties with Michael J. Fox.
It's been off the air for 30 years,
Yes,
you know.
it's been off the air forever."
That is
Poor
right.
Skippy. This guy bought a lot of land in the hills of L.A. back when he had money, and he still lives there in a trailer. But he's not doing as well anymore, so he got busted running an extension cord from his trailer to the property next door and stealing electricity from the neighbor.
Oh,
and the neighbor like came out.
Isn't it Mark Price or something
Mark
like
Price,
that?
very
Yeah.
good, Bruce.
Now, I will say I was wrong about the Family Ties team. That was Danny Tufano and Mindy Sterling. Who they are, I have no clue.
I don't either, but I'm glad we cleared that up. The
Yes.
point is, Skippy is my friend. We're going to have to call him someday. I have his cell phone in here. I'm not
that's
going to call him
awesome.
live right now. Don't put me on the spot. But yes, I
You
thought,
do. I remember you said I got Skippy's number. It was a big accomplishment for you.
yes.
You know, speaking of Skippy on Family Ties, he had this
Yeah.
when he and Mallory graduated high school. They were going to this little school called Grant College, and one of the selling points for people to go to Grant College was that when you went in for your what do you call it, orientation,
Yeah.
you got a free steak dinner.
Okay.
And they asked Skippy about going to Grant College, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait for that big juicy steak." But it was just funny because it's like, really, that's what sold you on going to college? Is you got a free steak dinner? I mean, come
Was
on.
Is this in real life or on the show?
No, on the show.
He
So
was
it
in
was-
hard times on the show too, though. Always,
It was-
the wacky neighbor pining after Mallory.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Found out he was adopted late in life.
Yeah. And
Yeah, the original
Mallory was with Nick Scott Valentine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mallory.
Hey, Mallory.
Yeah.
I probably have 15 to 20 episodes of Family Ties recorded on my DVR right now.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive. My point is, this is what my celebrity status brought me. I got Skippy in my life.
Skippy.
Do you think he might be able to score me naked pictures of Tina Yothers?
I don't think
Dude,
he
that
can score
is
you
so
anything.
nasty. Why
Come
are you a
on.
Tina Yothers fan when Justine Bateman was sitting right next to her?
Because she's real skanky now.
Oh, dude, I almost thought she was Dana Plato dead.
Oh no! Don't get me started on Dana Plato. I actually downloaded the pictures the other day of her when she was in Playboy.
Gosh, dude, have you seen her sex tape? She's got a sex tape.
Yeah, it really wasn't all
Wait, who,
that
Jennifer or Dana Plato?
But
Who-
Dana
You know what?
Plato.
Okay.
Good. Well, yeah, you know what sucked about that sex tape? The one thing that sucked about it was
Her?
that I,
Minutes
no,
3 through 4, I'm assuming.
No,
Early on,
that,
foreplay.
that I was uninvited. That I was uninvited to star in it with her. That's what sucked about
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry, Brewski. We all miss
Yeah.
out on opportunities in this world. So
That is such a weird one. Tina Yothers?
Well,
You didn't
why
have
not?
anything for
Okay,
Justine Bateman?
Okay, what am I going to ask him for? Pictures of Meredith Burney? I mean, come on, almost. Excuse me, Meredith Baxter.
Even Gross. I mean,
Alicia
Michael
Keaton,
Gross?
see him naked?
I don't know.
No.
Michael Gross, yeah.
Tina
Stephen
Yothers-
Keaton.
Well,
I thought
so-
Elise was a MILF. She was a good looking mom.
Oh, but don't you know what about her now?
No.
Oh, She doesn't like men.
Oh,
that's
I
for
don't
sure.
follow her on MySpace. No, I don't.
No,
know.
very angry lesbian woman. Very
Yeah,
angry.
She is angry.
Oh my gosh. Ooh, yeah.
That's all
But
right.
her husband David Burney
I
was
like a little
beating her for a
sauce.
lot of years, so you know.
You know what? While we're talking about your highlight of the year was Skippy,
We went skiing
should
together.
let-
It was nice. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah. We're buddies.
Was he a good skier?
No. I mean, he couldn't lay down while he skis like I could. So,
He couldn't lay down on his skis like you do, dude.
no, I'm a hot dog.
Well, that's great that you went skiing with him.
It is.
But I have a autograph picture hanging in my laundry room of who?
Autograph.
Any guesses?
Tony Danza?
Yes, dude. I got Brewski got me an autograph picture of Tony Danza
That's
when he was
right.
in Vegas.
That's right.
And I think it says "keep punching,"
Yes.
because Tony's a boxer. He's an incredible boxer.
Dude,
So,
Brewski, that was the best gift you could have given Nick, just so you know. Kudos.
Well, so I actually got that autograph here in Boston. He was
Oh,
actually
you did?
he was actually at a comic book convention, and if I told you why I was there, you'd probably think I'm really dorky. But
I already
was,
think you're
Why?
really dorky, dude.
Go ahead.
I was there because they were celebrating this big anniversary of the movie The Warriors.
Oh, yeah.
And
sure.
they had the entire cast there, and I went there dressed in I have a Warriors leather vest.
Wow.
I and
They
everything.
weren't booked
yeah.
elsewhere that night? That's hard to believe.
And then we watched the movie and did a question and answer session with them afterwards too,
Wow.
which was awesome.
Wow.
But
Wow.
Wow.
Take a look at this. You see this right here?
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Who
Oh,
is that, dude? Is that Teen Witch?
No, that's Facts of Life right there.
That is Lisa
Let me see.
Welchel.
Who is it? Natalie?
No, it's
That's
Blair.
Blair. Come on.
Oh, I can't see very well, dude. I
Okay,
can't
so-
see very well.
Yeah. Don't you love I have these theme songs here?
Facts of
I was more into Joe because I like the rough girl, but Blair.
Me too, dude. I love Joe.
Well, so here's the thing. So that's actually a Christian album she recorded. She's super Christian.
Ay, ay, ay.
And I bought the album and
Jesus
I sent
Christ.
it to her. Yeah, exactly. I sent it and I got an autograph from her, and it says, Jason, blessings, Lisa Welchel.
Oh my gosh, she clearly
Yeah.
didn't know who you were. If she's
No,
giving
not
you
at
any
all.
sort of Jesus-inspired messaging.
Not one at all. But I will tell you this: if you want to see a really cute like girl in a movie, watch a movie called The Double MacGuffin.
Sounds like a porn.
No,
It
it's
sure
not.
does.
Double MacGuffin. I gave her the
Okay.
old double MacGuffin. Yeah.
But actually, but a double MacGuffin is actually a term you use in a detective novel to talk about something that distracts you away from the actual crime that's being committed.
I see.
And Lisa Welchel is in that movie, and it's actually, believe it or not, Joe Camp directed that movie. That's the guy that did all the Benji movies.
Wow.
The little dog Benji.
I
Oh,
love that.
fascinating, dude.
I
I
love
love
that you
gonna-
have this autograph picture just sitting there, and I have the theme song sitting here. I don't know what is wrong with us, but this is all coming
don't
together
know.
nicely.
If
It really is.
I'm Tony Danza, and only in New York could you be live.
Only in New York can you be
extravaganza.
live, dude. Tony Danza. It is an extravaganza. I love Tony Danza. And when you gave me that picture,
he was so nice, you would have loved him.
he was?
Oh my God, yeah, he was so nice.
Is he still
Did you
alive?
tell him how big of a fan I was?
Yeah, I took a picture with them. I'll show you guys the picture sometime. I gotta dig it out. But I paid to get a picture taken with them, and he's just like, "Come here, Brewski, let me give you a hug."
Well, you paid him.
And he like
so,
pulled me.
you know.
He
Oh
put me
my
close.
gosh.
No, but here's the thing, though. He stood next to other people, but we talked for a few minutes. He hugged me, not like other
Wow.
people.
Wow.
Of course he did, dude.
Is he dead? You're talking about him in past terms. He was
No.
found in one
No,
sense.
he's doing well, dude.
Well, then
He's
honor
doing
him
well.
by saying he is a good guy, not he was a
Yeah.
good guy.
Oh no, he was a good guy
You're
the day I met
scaring
him.
me.
No, that's the same day that I did whiskey shots with Tom Wopat and John Schneider.
Wow.
Oh, you live an incredible life, Brisky.
No. When you're at Comic-Con and people are showing up to do all these
Yeah.
appearances,
Yeah.
I'm sitting at the
Just
bar.
a good old boy.
And I'm drinking with this woman who's dressed up like Violet from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
She had like this inflatable blue suit on, and she had this like blue face, and was sitting there drinking. And at one point, she's like, "I feel funny." And at that point, all of a sudden, here comes Tom Wopa and John Schneider walking up, and I threw down for us all to do whiskey shots together.
Wow.
That is
Do you
incredible.
see, people, the lives we have been living and the knowledge we now impart upon you? The
I may
pop
have
culture knowledge.
I may have the picture not only autographed but taken with the person that's the best here, the best story. I think it's going to put the cherry on this sundae. All right.
Okay.
Please.
Oh!
Is that Fat Albert?
Yes, Fat Albert, dude, and I spent a little time with Bill Cosby.
Oh,
And I'm gonna sing a song
no.
for
Did you fall asleep halfway through seeing him? Wake
No,
up
I didn't, dude. I was a minor. He's not that creepy.
I woke up and my backside hurt badly. I don't know what happened, but
He was doing a comedy show at the Puyallup Fair, and I introduced him on stage and had a whole conversation with him for probably 20 minutes before he went on.
20
went
minutes
on
you
stage.
talked to Dr. Huxtable?
Yeah. And then I had to go bring him out on stage. And I don't know if you guys can both relate to this, but they sent me out, and I'm probably, I don't know, there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 people there. So it's not a huge crowd, but it's a, nice sized crowd.
Yeah.
I go out there, and I think I'm 19 years old, or I'm probably 20 years old at this point in my life. I haven't even drank legally yet. And they said, "Oh, Nick, go down and introduce Bill Cosby at this event." And I was like, okay, sure, I'll jump at that. So I go down there, I talk to Bill Cosby. He asks me if I'm in school and if I'm being a good boy.
Hello, little boy.
All the stuff like
Where's
telling
the
me
nearest
how
pharmacy?
he's telling me how important education is. We have this whole conversation about how, like, oh, I'm getting into radio because I just started, and he's telling me, like, play clean, the dirty stuff is not where it's at. Play clean. So we have this whole conversation.
You ignored that advice.
Then I go on stage to introduce him, and for whatever reason, I do the whole, probably 2 minutes. I'm like, pumping the crowd up. How's everyone doing tonight? What a beautiful summer night it is, blah, blah, blah. Here's the concerts we're putting together for you all summer long at KBSG Oldies 97.3. So we got this crowd of baby boomers out there, and they're all excited to see Dr. Huxtable. And I go through, tell everyone who's going to be there for the summer, and I'm like, now, ladies and gentlemen, it's finally time to bring him out on stage. You know him as Bill Cosby, but let's bring out Dr. Huxtable. And nothing. No one comes out. And everyone's clapping and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like looking back behind me like, are we going here?
Awkward.
And there's a guy on the side of the stage, and he's telling, putting his fists together and pulling them apart. Like, you gotta stretch.
Oh, you gotta stretch.
You gotta stretch it out.
Yeah.
And I am horrified because I already blew my wad. I have nothing left to say, dude.
It is terrible they didn't get to you before you actually introduced him.
Oh, unbelievably terrible, because now I'm embarrassed.
Just kidding.
Right? Yeah, just kidding, because everyone was ready and pumped. Now you got this idiot standing up there, and I don't even know what to talk about at this point. So I just start talking about the fair. I think I said, like, oh, Mr. Cosby, he's going to be with us in, a minute or two, and blah, blah, blah. And I start talking about the fair. I was up there for 15 minutes stretching. And
dude, he did assault you, okay?
He did. He bent me over and assaulted me real good.
Seriously,
Wow.
that's violating. I've done stuff like that. 15 minutes you had to ad-lib for?
Yeah. And
I would have killed that guy, not even knowing all the stuff he was going to go on to do.
Dude, I was horrified because I thought,
terrible.
here's my big chance to do this, and then it turned into that shit show.
Wow.
But I still got a picture, obviously, with, he signed it for me, and it's the two of us standing next to each other, and
his hands caressing your back gently.
I'd forgotten about that picture. And a couple of years ago, my brother sent it to me, and he said, "This didn't age very well, did it?"
Right.
Wow. Oh, no. Didn't
I once introduced Hitler at a concert, just in fairness.
But he came right out when you called him, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Hitler's not rude, you know.
No,
I mean,
come on.
So.
Now,
Wow.
Nikki, do you remember, by the way, when we were both working over at Clear Channel, my really big interview when I was on Mitch in the Morning?
Give me a little more. Who?
80s female movie star, redhead.
Molly Ringwald?
That is right. Yeah.
Yes. Didn't you ask her about panties?
I did not.
Okay. I thought you did. No, you did it in the production studio. You weren't live when you did it, right?
Exactly. In the production
right.
studio. And I have a picture here that I can share with you guys of Molly and I. And my hand is a little bit low on her right side hip.
I bet
It's an
it is.
80s heartthrob. I get it.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing too is that so you know you do stuff for a show, like we were talking about how Hannity plays a character and that sort of thing.
Sure.
So I had this producing partner at the time who was routinely throwing me under the bus and making me look bad on the air, like for yucks on the show and that sort of thing.
Right.
So I happened to look outside the door to see where everybody was, and I see he's walking towards the studio. Now Molly has just left me. She's taking pictures with people. I go to the chair where she's sitting, and I put my face sideways on the chair. It's still, the seat is still warm, right? Right?
Brewski.
No. But so I did this for a particular reason. He comes walking through the door, and I jump back like, oh, and he's like, "What were you doing?" I'm like, nothing at all, right? Because I knew he was gonna go to Mitch the next day and say, "Guess what I caught him doing?" and that sort of thing. And
so you were doing it for comedy gold, not because you're some weird perv.
Are you sure, dude?
Or is it
Are
a
you
little both?
sure?
No, I don't
No,
know.
Come on.
No, I'm serious. So the next day, and this is like a whole joke that I had on all of them. They were giving me trouble, and to this day, they still have no idea. Well, I did have a moment a few years ago where I kind of blurted out to Mitch that was all fake, but I did it for the show, and sure enough, he went on the air the next day, and the minute he had an opportunity, he mentioned it.
Yeah, well, he should have. He probably should have called the cops first and then mentioned it on the radio.
Did you smell anything?
I wasn't trying to.
Did
I
you
was
smell
not-
16
Did you?
candles? Come on.
No, nothing like that. No, when she was sitting next to me and I had my arm around her, she smelled kind of like vanilla. I'll tell you that.
Wow.
That is a nice encounter, dude. I didn't ever know that you smelled the seat. For some reason, I thought you did something with panties, but maybe not. Oh, there. It's a beautiful picture, Brewski.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
she still looks hot there, dude.
Yeah.
Brucey, you're looking pretty hot there too, but if you don't
not
mind me
really.
saying so.
Oh, and there,
Two
yeah,
redheads, you would have made beautiful children. You really should have pushed the subject more.
Yeah, I wasn't as fat then, so that was good.
And by the way, that means that you interviewed Molly Ringwald. We on the Vocal Minority interviewed Anthony Michael Hall, which is still one of my favorite interviews because it was spontaneous. We just had a good chat. So
And he was a
that's
good
good
guy.
80s knowledge. Yeah,
I
he was
like
fun
him.
talk.
Yeah.
See how diverse we are, people.
All right, let's roll forward to 2011.
That was my becoming friends with Skippy. Anyone else have something that year?
No, I don't have anything from 2011. It was a dead year.
Let's talk 2012 real quick, because that is the year that Washington State legalized recreational marijuana, which then started to ripple across the country. California took a few more years, but that was in our sign-off time, pot became legal. Can we discuss how mind-blowing that is? After a lifetime of hiding that, it being illegal, being afraid you're going to get arrested, and now there's a store down the street you can go buy it at.
Do you have any regrets that it is legal?
No. The prices have not gone up. The quality has gone way up, though. The accessibility has gone way up.
Yeah.
And the socially acceptableness of it has gone up. Although it's still awkward. Like, at the dinner table, I wouldn't hesitate to put a cocktail on the table in front of my kids. I wouldn't put a bong on the table, though. So we're still in
do
the-
your kids know you smoke?
No, they do not, as far as I know.
Really?
Wow.
Are
Yes,
you kidding me, dude?
No, I've done a very good job of concealing that.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
don't
good thing
know
I'm
that
not
you
announcing
have.
it to the world or anything.
Yeah, I don't know that you have done
I
a
don't
good
think-
job.
no, I don't-
I think they both know, but
No,
have
I've done a
not brought
very
it
good
up
job.
to you.
I don't know
Steve,
about that.
I've smoked so much pot with you in your home,
And
I think and
they're kids.
listen,
They don't know what that smell is. Someday,
course
here's my
they
prediction.
do.
They're teenagers, of course they know.
Well, maybe now, maybe. I can assume someday they'll be at a party and be like, "That's what my dad's bedroom used to smell like." That's weird.
Listen, I had this thought. I've had this thought many times of, like, here's the thing. Steve and I obviously don't live in the same town anymore, but I go into Tahoe usually a time or two a year. Every time I've gone in to Tahoe,
yeah, we have a lot of meetings.
we have. This is how it works out, dude.
I got to borrow Uncle Nick for 5 minutes, please.
Yes, at nighttime, I'll be hanging with the kids, and then all of a sudden, Steve will be back in the bedroom doing something for a while. He'll come out and he'll be like, Uncle Nick and I need to have a little meeting. We'll be back. Then we'll go into his bedroom and open the window and smoke and smoke a bong for 10 or 15 minutes and cough and everything else, and then come out. And I
in better
think that
mood.
they have to know, dude. I think they have to know.
I don't know.
And maybe that's my paranoia. I always felt like they might know when I came out.
I don't know. I truly don't know. I mean, certainly it's never been brought up. There was one time, I will say, my I don't want to get to the I don't want to give away too many spoils here, but my now ex-wife, she came walking out of our bedroom once holding the bong, like right in front of everyone.
I remember.
She was she was spaced out and wasn't thinking, and she just comes walking out, and I lunged at her and just like covered my body over her, and both kids are just like, "What are you doing?" I'm just like, "You're on fire!" Or something. Like, you got a bug.
Grenade!
And my son later was like, "What was that thing Mom was holding?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Go back to watching cartoons." But no, as far as I know, it's certainly never come up. But it's a weird thing because it used to be illegal, so that was just taboo, period. But yeah, now what do I do? Because it is totally legal. My kids, I remember when my daughter went to 6th grade, she came home and it was like, "Hey, I hear an eighth cost $30. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, in the women's room at the middle school, that's what they're selling pot in the bathroom for." I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like, but now it's legal. Like, we have sponsors at our radio station here that are pot shops. They sponsor major events. I've judged the Cannabis Cup. I mean,
You better tell them, dude. You better just tell them. You know what? Daddy does this. He does pot.
Responsibly.
Does fine.
He does pot. Daddy does pot and has done it for a long time.
Yeah, and so does your
you're
mom,
none the more.
okay? Just so you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and your dad does it better than your mom, just so you know.
This has been one of the things where I wondered, and Nick and I have talked about this, like if we had never stopped this show, how would I have done all of these years of doing what we said at the beginning of the show, being honest with the audience and not bullshitting people? I don't know how I would have lived this dual life of being honest on the radio, but then being a dad that has to go home and say, here's what's right and wrong and all that. So maybe this was
difficult.
part of the secret blessing of us putting the show on the shelf. Like, the kids are older, society has changed. We had a big talk in this family about whether everyone should be listening to this podcast. Because at first I was like, yes, like I'm ready to let the truths all come out. My daughter does not know, by the way, that we never knew we were 8 months pregnant. Like, that whole story, she's never done the math on that. We used to.
Oh, she doesn't?
It's never been discussed. And I
Yeah.
always wondered if she would realize, like, oh, Mom and Dad are celebrating their 10-year anniversary this week, and next week is your 10th birthday. Like, she never put any of that stuff together. So there's a lot of information I'm going to put out on the show that my kids do not know about me. And at first I was just like, you know what? Everyone's old enough. I'm ready. I want to stop hiding. But now I sort of threw the gauntlet down in the house with the kids and with someone else we'll get to later that, you know what? For now, don't listen to this. I need to go in and do this talk show without you people in my head and censoring myself and worrying about what they're going to say and not say. It defeats the whole purpose of trying to do a real honest talk show. So I've told everyone, let me get a few episodes into this and then we'll discuss. Maybe there's some highlights you can listen to, or maybe you just go and listen to the whole thing, and we have a whole bunch of family conversations after that point.
And what was their response? They were okay with that?
My daughter was. Crosby was a little taken aback by it. And then he started trying to tell me, like, hey, wait a minute, you're not going to talk about me, are you? And I'm like, well, yeah, you're part of my life. He's like, I'm not okay with that. I'm like, well, it's not up to you. So why don't you just not listen for now and put faith in me that I'm not going to embarrass all of us or out some, secret or something. Like,
sure.
Just, so that's where we're at as of now. There's going to be an episode one of these days where they have listened, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. This is either going to be a whole new bonding experience, or I'm going to lose custody of my kids. One of the two is going to happen.
Well, hopefully that won't happen, but I would be willing to. I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes. And if my dad told me, don't listen to these podcasts, I mean, I would find a way to listen to it.
Yes.
I think I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told them that you can do that, just like if I tell you not to watch some violent movie, but, that's your secret then. You reference to me that you've heard something, then first thing first, you're grounded. And now let's talk about daddy's sex life and drug life and everything else. So I don't know. It's part of this. We'll see how it goes. It's something I was living in fear of for many years, and now it's all out there. And like Nick and I were talking about recently, the difference between this podcast and the show we used to do is that was live radio. And if you weren't listening at the time, whatever was said is gone into the ether. Even if you were listening on the World Wide Web, it's still, if you weren't listening live, you missed it. This is going to be archived for all time to come.
Yep.
So, I mean, my kids may be in their 20s or 30s, but at some point, you're right, they're going to listen to this.
Sure.
I've always told Nick, like, if I die, not only do you clear my search history, but I've got a box of the old Vocal Minority shows laying around that need to get disintegrated or something, because I can't let my kids find out all this stuff. But here we go.
And I, you know what? I'm willing to do that for you.
Please do.
But I don't know that I have access. I don't know if I have access to your home anymore.
You do. There's a window. Just get in here and get it done. So.
All right. Well, what about the? Are we waiting? Okay, we're waiting for the other part of your household. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're going chronologically here, Nick.
All right. Let's. Okay.
All right. 2013. Unless anyone else has something to throw in here.
2013. Boy, that was 9 years ago.
Oh, that's my big year.
Oh, let's have it, Bruce.
Sure. What do you got?
Okay, so I finally get a job back in radio, but it's in sales. And in the meantime, I've sold cars.
We'll talk about my opinion of radio sales later, but go ahead. Yes.
So I had sold cars for a while, and then what happened was iHeart was starting this specific team that sold advertising strictly to car dealers. So because I had radio experience and car sales experience, they thought that I would be good to be kind of like the account manager for the sales team. So I wasn't out on the road selling at that point, but I was setting up the appointments for the salespeople. I was creating proposals. I was coming up with saleable ideas and that sort of thing. I mean, I got Vern Funk to advertise.
Honk if you drive by Vern Funk.
There's a very Seattle reference for you all.
Yeah, and so anyway,
big year, Brisky. Come on.
Yeah, I'm doing the sales thing, right? And so then I'm there for about 8 months, and then I go into work one day, and again they're firing the entire sales team.
DUN.
Exactly. Now keep in mind, 2 days prior to that, I woke up one morning and I went and I got Jenna coffee, and I came home and I said, "Hey, you know what? The funniest thing happened last night. I was taking your glasses off your face because you fell asleep with their glasses on, and you woke up and you said to me, 'What are you doing? Stop that! I fucking hate you.'" And I was just, but I chalked that up to okay, she's half asleep. People say weird stuff when they're half asleep. Yeah,
you're very forgiving, dude. Yeah, I mean that's very forgiving.
Okay, so then
I want a divorce.
so then she leaves me in the kitchen. I'm cooking breakfast, and she comes back a couple minutes later, and she's like, "Hey, can we talk?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." and then she says, you know what,
Hmm.
you know, that wasn't just me half asleep. Listen, I think we ought to break up, and that sort of thing.
Wow.
So then
I'm sorry, Brewski. That's a throat punch, dude.
no, but I said okay, and she's like, that's it. And I said, well, listen, you know what? Back a couple of years ago, when you tried to break up with me for like the 8th time, I told, and you took it back. I said, the next time you do it, you better be ready to go through with it because I'm not going to fight you on it.
Yeah, right.
And I said, that's today. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, okay, whatever, right? So then I go to work 2 days later. I get fired at work, right? Now
Yeah.
she when we broke up, she told me you can have a few weeks to find a place to live and all that sort of thing. I'm like, okay, no problem. I come home that night and she says, so you got fired today? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, you know how I told you that you could have a couple weeks to get someplace to live? I said, yeah. She says, I want you. She said, I want you out of the house right away. I was like,
wow.
I was like, excuse me? And then she's just like, well, you know, I talked to Lainey, who's a friend of a mutual friend of ours, and she needs someone to house sit and for a month. And I need, you know, I want you to go and do that. And so I was kicked out of my house like immediately.
Yeah, I don't understand why your response to that wasn't the fuck I am. I mean, we can stay in separate sides of the house or whatever.
Well, but and here's the thing: we had a full basement there that had 3 rooms, one of which was supposed to be like my man pit, quote unquote, as she called it.
Right.
But she was like, I want you out of the house. And then here's the kicker. And so I was just like, well, you know, Lenny doesn't have cable and everything. I was like, you know, hey, can I like come over and watch TV and use the internet here and everything? And she's like, no, I don't feel comfortable with you in the house when I'm not home. And I'm like, you've been with me for what, like almost 10 years, and you're not comfortable with me coming in the house?
Wow.
So, but the joke's on her because we hid a hide key outside the house because she had this really bad habit of going outside for a cigarette and locking herself out of the house.
Yeah.
And one time I was at work and she was working from home and she's just like calling me up at work saying, hey, I locked myself out of the house. Now, granted, I'm only going from Ballard to Greenwood, which is probably about, if you're not from Seattle, maybe about a 7-minute drive. So I could leave my office and get her back in the house. But from that point forward, we had to hide a key in case she got locked out. So then what I did was when she left for work, I'd just go over to the house and I'd sit with my dogs and watch TV all day.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you were breaking into your former residence.
Well, technically I was on the lease too. So,
Huh.
you know, so you can't say I'm breaking in if I'm on the lease, you know?
I would agree with that. And that
Yes.
is harsh. Why did she fast forward that whole timeline?
Well, so
The
here's
hell?
the thing. But so I didn't realize until after the fact, but you know how there are always breadcrumbs that lead up to the ultimate thing.
In hindsight, you start to see them. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I thought immediately like so Lawrence Taylor, who used to play for the Giants, got busted for drugs one time by the cops, and
Yeah.
he famously said, "I was set up like a motherfucker," and that's exactly what I felt like in that position there. I was set up like a motherfucker because from the time I got that job at iHeart to the time she broke up with me, there were little things like
yeah.
the bank accounts being separated, and then her taking me off her health insurance. And even though she worked for a health insurance company, looked at the health insurance that iHeart was giving me, and it was complete shit. And she's like, "Yeah, this is really good. You'll be totally fine with that."
Yeah, I don't know. I would have been so much more vindictive towards that whole thing. And, kudos to you for, breaking and entering and hiding during the day. But I would have made her life not nearly as fun as it was.
Well, you know what I did too? Too. So, I'm not the big pot smoker like you guys are, but I had friends
come on
who.
now.
But I had friends who were big pot smokers, and she used to buy like quantity and keep it in the freezer.
Smart.
And
Smart
I
back
would,
in those days, yes.
But I would pinch every time I went over there. I would pinch
Right.
from her stash in the freezer and bring it over to my buddy the Claus house and say, "Here you go. I was over at Jen's house today," and so he he got free weed for several months.
One nugget at a time. I will ruin
Oh
you.
no! Oh no! I was taking more than that.
Oh, good
But-
for you.
But she didn't know I was going over there, so
It's
like,
hard
she
to
felt-
notice a pinch at a time. So yeah, nice.
But she wouldn't have known that especially me.
What's she gonna do? Call the cops?
Yeah, exactly.
People have done that before, by the way, and it never ends well for them.
No.
That guy stole my weed. Oh, really?
And
Oh,
So
that's
anyway,
funny.
so
So,
that was-
okay. Any other
that's-
terribleness
that-
of that year? So your career got derailed and your long-time relationship fell apart. Blindsided.
well.
The Brewski blindside.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't so happy in radio sales anyway, so.
Yeah. You
well, and the
shouldn't have been.
biggest part of that was you
Job
losing
sucks.
your puppies, right? I mean, you lost your
Yeah.
dogs, you
She-
lost
she
your
got-
girlfriend.
She got custody of my dogs, and but that's because I moved in with a couple of buddies of mine who didn't have a fenced-in yard, so I couldn't keep the dogs myself.
Wow. Harsh. Can I just say, not to derail the subject here, I've never worn headphones for this long in my life. They're starting to really bother me.
Are your ears all sweaty?
Yeah, and they're rubbing on me a little because talk radio people. We would take commercial breaks a couple times an hour. We'd all take the headphones off, take a leak, get some fresh air, take a smoke or whatever. Podcasting,
Yeah, I haven't,
Podcasting is not for the faint of heart. Straight
No,
through,
it's
baby.
not. I haven't been wearing headphones for years, dude. The only reason I have
Right.
these on is for you guys.
Yeah. I only wear them for live radio, and most of what I've been doing is, canned or remote or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what, though? These are the same headphones that I've had since the KBSG days, since the Vocal Minority days.
Wow.
These are the same too.
Yeah, yeah.
These,
Boy,
these
like
are
that.
brand new, but they're the same ones you guys have.
Nice.
Beautiful. Well, you spent an arm and a leg on those bad boys.
No, those they weren't bad at all. I got them on Amazon. I got them for a good deal.
What'd you
It's like
pay?
125 back in the day, which was really expensive. Now Beats by
99
Dre are what, like $900 or something? I don't know.
$99 I paid for these headphones.
Yeah, and they're good cans. So
Yeah, but yeah, Beats by Dre are shit.
right.
They,
Take
no,
that.
no, they are. They sound like shit.
No, I've tried them on before. They're not. You're right.
Yeah, these are
Your
the best studio
broadcast quality.
monitors that you can buy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Excuse me.
You know
All
what
right.
else happened in 2013? If memory serves, because it's a little hazy, and I can't imagine why. Brewski and I reunited. In 2013, I launched a website called LeftyLiberal.com.
You did.
And it was an attempt to give me a platform outside of my morning radio show that was just pissing off people in my town to get some other media friends together and let's do some podcasts, some articles. We had political cartoons going on there, and Brewski was one of the people that stepped on up, and for absolutely no pay, like everyone was making on that website, we all started contributing content. We had a phenomenal liberal website.
Yeah,
which
right.
later got
And how
taken
long
over.
was the run?
Well, so here's what happened. Two things happened. In 2014, I became the general manager of the radio stations in Lake Tahoe, and I had to stop pissing people off because it's too small of a town. I couldn't risk upsetting clients. I couldn't lose something over my opinions and rants. I had to look out for the station. I had employees now, so I had to stop doing the political rants. So I stuck a fork in Lefty Liberal, which again I felt bad about, but it wasn't really going much anywhere. But the funny thing was about that website, I let the website just kind of sit there, and a year later, I got an email that at the time I thought was fake because it made no sense whatsoever. But it was from the company that was hosting the website, and they said Russians have hacked your website and have taken over LeftyLiberal.com.
That's right.
And I was just like,
forgot about
Russians? Why would Russians be hacking political American websites? That's absurd. I laughed
Makes
it
no
off.
sense. Why would they do that?
And now we know, they
Yeah.
probably actually did do that, and were
Did
using
they
it.
offer to sell it back to you for an extreme price?
Yeah, no. And I don't know. People don't go to that website. I don't know what's at that URL anymore. I'm not buying it back from you if you're sitting on it.
Can we pay in rubles?
Yeah, I was going to say, you'll be giving Putin a direct line into your life, so don't go there. But it was a cool website. I started cartooning again. I had a friend from Michigan who was doing cartoons and articles, and so it was fun. But then, yeah, I became a real person a year later, a real boss guy, and I had to stop all that. Sure. And that was a fork in the road for me, quite frankly, 2014. I wanted to become general manager because I had a family to take care of. And as you've heard us discuss, the on-air side, unless you are the Howard Stern level, you're not making dick for money. And the sales
for
side,
yourself,
the
dude.
management side, that's where all the nice cars in the parking lot come from. You know, the DJs have the beat up old, Malibus or whatever, and the sales guys have the new BMWs. So I felt I had to take care of the family. So I had been sort of pushing myself, learning sales and management, and then we had a GM leave at the station at the time, and I went directly to the owner in Denver, and I made a pitch for why you should make me the GM. He flew me to Denver and interviewed me personally in his office and put me through all these hoops. He sent me to another market
Put you
that they
through
owned.
hoops, dude. I mean, that
It was-
sounds a little odd.
It was a little kinky, but mainly just painful, which
Yeah.
actually makes sense. So yeah, I had to stop all the political ranting and ravings and put on my big kid pants, and that's when I started doing radio sales full time, Brewski, and I don't like it. Didn't like it then, and I don't fucking like it now.
You started wearing collared shirts, dude.
Yeah, for a brief period there, and wearing my glasses. It was a coincidence in the timing, but I got on my very studious management glasses and had to have a real job. Now, the advantage was 2014, speaking of reuniting with Brewski in 2013, guess who I hired? Because I was the program director and I got promoted to general manager. So then I had to hire a program director. Who could I find? Who did I know?
I don't know, dude.
That would have my back, that could do the job, there was all the talent in the world, and that I could convince to work for next to nothing. Because that's, again, what the programming side is. So
Oh, that had to be me, dude.
that is Nick Reynolds, everybody. So,
And it didn't end there, dude. Let's be honest. For the large salary I received,
yes,
I was working on the air. I was programming, and I'm also the head of HR.
yes, Nick
So,
is our
I
human
mean,
resources director. That is a true story.
Yeah.
Ops manager, program director, and human resources. So,
Wow.
that's fun.
Man of many hats.
So in 2014, Nick and Steve were able to reunite on the radio airwaves yet again, just in a completely different capacity.
Different capacity, but started being able to work together on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And, kind of more felt like old times. At least I got to, we talked to each other every day. So
Yep.
that was nice, dude.
And yeah, I needed someone who would have my back. The corporate office, by the way, did not want me to hire you because you were in a different market. And I explained to them that in the little town I was in, there was nobody that had any qualifications. I didn't want to hire somebody new and make them the program director, which for those of you not in the business, that's the boss of the on-air side, person that picks the music and the DJs and all that kind of stuff. So I told him, I said, if the key here is to have somebody that's got my back and that has the talent, this is the guy I want. So I want him. Or I'm just not hiring anyone else. So they conceded, and we hired Nick. And what year is this? 2022, and we're still working there.
Dude, what year was that? 2014?
Yep.
It's been a long, strange trip, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
it really has been a long ride at KRLT.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, it's been good for sure. I've loved being a part of the station, and
It's mainly been good. Yeah.
yeah.
You've been good.
Well, you've had. I don't have all the stress that you have, dude. I mean, I don't have all the stress that you have. I don't. I'm not a guy who has to meet payroll every 2 weeks.
Right. I have said on a few occasions in recent years, like, if happiness is the goal, put me back at program director. Let me just make commercials and go on the radio and play good music. All of the shit and stress that I took on becoming the general manager, being in charge of sales, corporate office, all of that stuff. Yes, I started making more money and could provide a life for my family that I was never capable of before. But the stress was off the freaking charts. And my life started to kind of spiral out of control as a result of it.
I mean, it changed your health, dude. I mean, that's how much the stress was, right?
Absolutely. I started gaining weight. I became a stressed out individual. I was working constantly, and I was not doing what I got into radio to do. I've said 100 times that I went from being DJ to being an accountant, and that's not me. I got into radio to be on air and to have that fun. And now I went to the dark side of the radio station and was doing sales and management and engineering crap and all, just everything. And then to make matters, I thought I was making them better. I'm not sure if I did. But about a year and a half after they made me the general manager, the owner of the company called me. He's like, hey, Steve, you've been doing this for a little over years. Sales are up. You got rid of our problem employees. Things are looking really good. You've put the station in a position where I can sell it now. I'm just like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. Like, I cannot go through another format
Change.
flip and
Yeah.
ownership change and new goals and expectations, blah, 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 blah. So he tells me, he said, listen, when you were sitting in my office in Denver, I kept thinking to myself, that's not the next general manager. That's the next owner of the station. So I
Who
want
was this man? What's his name?
Joe Schwartz. He was the
Okay,
owner of Cherry
okay.
Creek Radio. Not with the company anymore. But
Right.
so he said, is there any way that you could come up with the money to buy the radio station? And for those of you that don't know, radio stations are not cheap. Most of them are millions. This small market one was high six figures is what they were asking. And somebody had taught me years ago, fake it till you make it. So he said, could you put together that kind of money? I said, absolutely, I can do that.
No problem at all.
I don't even know I can pay my cable bill next month. But yeah, let me come up with $800,000.
Yeah.
So I then went on this expedition for months, stalling these people. They would get, how's it going? Oh, I got one investor on the line, but no, they just bowed out. Like I stalled them for, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. And finally, it got down to a point where I was legitimately getting investors on board. I was trying to make it work. And I did the whole going to the bank for a loan, and they laughed me out of there like they do with every small business. And one investor fell through, another came, blah, blah, blah. And so finally, I called them, and I said, listen, you want like $800,000 for this place. I've only been able to come up with roughly half of that. So I'm really sorry, but I can't buy your radio station. And Joe Schwartz said, listen, Steve, how about I'm your bank? I'll give you the other $400,000. We'll mortgage it, like buying a house. You give me, a deposit. I'll pay the rest. You pay me back every year. So people always think I'm rich because I bought a radio station, which cannot be further from the truth. It's like buying a house. I came up with a six-figure down payment, and then I mortgaged my life for eternity to pay back the station. Wow. So I got rid of the stress of having a corporate office hanging over me, and I took back control, which is why I did it for me, for Nick, for the whole crew here. But I traded one set of stress for another because somebody once told me, you don't know the stress of ownership until you have signed the front of the paycheck.
Yeah.
Everyone signs the back of their own paycheck. Until you sign the
Yeah.
front of one, you don't frickin' know how much stress goes into making payroll every 2 weeks, into keeping the lights on, FCC compliances, state and federal. I mean, it was a frickin' nightmare.
ASCAP. I mean, there's so many elements to,
Yes.
and especially like for this radio station, you actually purchased 2 radio stations, one of which is all syndicated programming, which is a headache in and of itself, you know.
Yeah,
So,
the news talk station I was doing the morning show on, which I gave up when I became GM. So, yeah.
Right.
No, and we'll tell you, though, speaking of the conservative talk station that had Rush Limbaugh, the first thing I did as the new owner was to fire Rush Limbaugh.
Felt good.
It was a badge of honor. I did not actually do it for politics. That was a, sort of side guilty pleasure that I got to fire Rush. Our station, KOWL, was one of his original affiliates because we're near Sacramento, and that's where Rush started his radio career. So we were one of the first affiliates. And obviously I hated Rush, but he was a big name. The problem was Rush Limbaugh was one of the few talk shows that the radio station had to pay for. So we were writing him a check every month. Most talk shows that you guys hear on any local radio station, it's a barter, meaning they give you a certain amount of commercial airtime per hour that you can sell to your local advertisers, and then they get the rest of the commercial airtime. So they give you the show for free, basically. But
He
you
required both. Right?
Say that again?
He required both.
Yeah, you had to give him the barter time too, but then above and beyond that, you had to write him a check. And also every week, I would get an email from national advertisers saying, do not put me on the Rush Limbaugh show. And I had local advertisers that said, do not put me on the Rush Limbaugh show. He's too controversial. Even if I'm conservative, my customers may not be. So I'm sitting here going, okay, so if any of my other DJs, got people, were repelling advertisers. If somebody every week emailed me and said, don't put me on the Nick Reynolds show, I can't keep paying Nick Reynolds to repel advertisers. Like I said, I'm trying to keep the lights on. Well, for you.
Yeah.
So it made no sense to keep Rush Limbaugh. So I fired him. And I replaced him, though, with another conservative because I was not trying to play politics. I actually balanced the station out. I added liberals. I kept conservatives. I added financial shows. Like I tried to balance the spectrum, making it easier for advertisers. That way, if you don't want to be on one show, tell them, hey, I'm on Rush, but I'm also on the the liberal show too. So I balanced the whole thing out. But yes, it was a guilty pleasure to be somebody that was able
sure.
to fire Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
And it made the trades. It was a big national story. Rush Limbaugh loses original affiliate. And so,
Yeah.
that was kind of fun, I guess, to fire.
It was a good feeling, dude. I remember the day you did it. I was like, fuck yes, do that, dude. Goodbye.
Now Steve, when you did that, did you get a lot of pushback from the locals who were regular listeners of KUWL? Were they angry that you had gotten rid of Limbaugh?
Yes. But I replaced him with, I want to say it was Hugh Hewitt. It was another conservative. And so I told them, like, just give the new guy a chance. And honestly, at first, there was a big freak out, lots of calls. They tried to boycott the station, and I just ignored it, and it all went away, and never heard anything else about it. And the listeners seemed to take to the new guy just fine.
You know, I'm sure Nikki knows that name very well, don't you, Nikki?
Hugh Hewitt?
Yes.
Yes, of course I do.
Yeah. Does
Did he
Steve know
touch you?
why?
What happened there?
Tell him, dude.
Show me on the doll where he touched you.
No. Hugh Hewitt was one of Nick's wife's law professors.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
At
that guy's
Chapman.
got a college degree. That's hard to
Oh,
believe.
yeah.
He's a lawyer.
Yeah, he's a lawyer. And also, while we're throwing out big names that were my wife's professors in law school, John Eastman.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, who is going down in fucking flames right now. You know who he is. And he got all riled up by the Trump campaign and decided to do a bunch of really illegal shit. And you know what?
He's the White House counsel, or was for Trump, right?
No. That was Pat Cipollone.
Yeah.
So
Well, he had like 20 lawyers. Which one was Eastman?
No. So Eastman was not technically a White House lawyer. What it is Eastman was an advisor, quote unquote. He's the one that came to Trump with the independent state electors theory,
Yes.
which was basically that each individual state could ignore the will of their voters and put forth their own slate of electors. Even though me as a candidate, I won all the votes in that state, the state could say, "Oh no, we know better. These other people are going to represent us."
So he went to law school. He just didn't pay attention.
Yeah, he was. He taught at a law school. He was a professor, dude. He was my wife's professor. He
How
was
can
one
you
of
be a
them.
law school professor and think that anything he's done recently was even remotely legal, let alone ethical?
Dude, I'll tell you what. So on the date of the insurrection, he was up on that stage before or after Trump. I can't remember, but he was telling the whole crowd why it was right that we go fight to take over the Capitol and everything else. And he was in cahoots big time with Trump and Rudy Giuliani. And on his way out, he was like, hey, one of those, you think I can get one of those pardons you were talking about?
Wow.
I mean,
does Rachel get a refund on his class?
yeah, she should. I mean, everybody who ever took any class from him, but it was an interesting conversation to hear. Like, obviously on Facebook, she's friends with a lot of people that she went to law school with.
Yeah.
And a lot
I'm sure
of these
they're all
people,
really proud.
I mean, they're all like, can you believe that Professor Eastman was a part of this whole thing? And start recounting like some of the stuff that happened in his classroom and stuff like that. And they were like, we knew that he had a little crazy side to him, but he was a seeker of justice through law and everything. Like, it makes no sense.
But you know what? As crazy as you guys may say that this is, and it is, it's actually something that a lot of conservative law people are actually have embracing, and they actually think that there's a constitutional right for states to be able to do that. As a matter of fact, coming up in the next Supreme Court session in September in the fall, they're actually going to hear a case in North Carolina that tests that theory as to whether the federal government should have any sort of say over even federal elections in states.
Wow.
So what they're saying is that the independent state electors thought is that that's the way that the founders, quote unquote, wanted everything to be. Now let's keep in mind. But let's keep in mind.
I think they got away from monarchies and kings and all that. But go ahead.
No, but here's the thing though. Steve, do you know what the average age was of the founders of this country when they wrote the Constitution?
34.
22.
25. 25 years old. So now all these conservatives that keep, talking about how great the founders were, but yet they're the first person to say it, tell a 25-year-old to shut the hell up, and you have no life experience.
Right.
You don't know what you're talking about. But yet you're there talking about these guys who were educated over 240 years ago, and you're saying that these are the guys that you're holding up as like the paragons of democracy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I talked to a real lawyer, and I asked him his opinion on John Eastman's latest speech on that topic.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I think that
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
That's very true. I think we've got another
That's a quote.
reviewer of his perspective.
Oh, really?
It's an abomination. It's an abomination. It's an abomination.
Hallelujah. All right, we're getting on to current events. And right there is where I'm going to cut this off for now. Hey, it's me, Steve, after the fact. That show's been recorded. We continue to talk for another 2.5 hours. So we decided to split this whole thing into 2 different episodes. So check out episode 2, already posted. Find out which one of us has a child that we never knew about, whose ex is dating a guy on parole for murder, and whose relationship has gone completely off the rails. All of that and a whole lot more awaits you in episode 2 of The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve. Thanks for listening. Check us out on social media and help spread the good word. For now, peace.